Hey guys, it's Scott here. Gotta apologize for this episode coming out, about a week late. Three of the four of us are moving, and there were some illnesses involved in there. Nothing bad, everyone's fine, just general unwell, so apologize for this being late, and we'll aim to do what I normally tell Sean. Do better.
Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to episode 93 of Mythos Busters. Boy, 100 is encroaching quite quickly, quicker than I want it to. This is Sean. Joining me tonight are my other Mythos Busters, my Iron Men. We've got Ian. Hey, Ian.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm surprisingly recovered from Iron Man. I think the day after Iron Man, I thought I would never recover because I've rarely been that exhausted in my whole life. Oh boy.
You know, I had the exact same thought, and then I hopped into 4 more hours of streaming of Arkham. because
I have no idea how you did that.
Because I agree to obligations before thinking them through. And we played, Scott and I played that one. Hey, Scott.
Hi. Yeah, we played some Labyrinths of Lunacy.
We did, and it was fun because we actually had some people who were playing it for the first time, and to just be a part of that magic, it was a good time.
Yeah, each of the 3 groups had someone who was new. So, yeah.
And it was very fun to push all of the decision making off onto someone else because I was in no shape to make any decisions after Iron Man.
Oh, the best part was giving them all the first, when you get together with other people and they just are not exchanging the proper information at all, and you had jumped in there just because we were streaming it, and you're just like, oh boy, we are not getting the information we need.
They skipped right over the part where we talk about what we're doing in the scenario, and they're just trying to help each other. Like, what is happening?
Yeah, it was so great. I loved it. Oh.
Missing tonight is Nick. He is still in the process of splitting all the angles and moving all of his stuff from one location to another, one dimension to another.
Mm-hmm.
But joining us instead, a rarity on Ye Old Actual Audio Podcast is, I suppose he was just on the very last episode, so what do I know? It's Justin. Hey, Justin.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I think I'm mostly recovered from Iron Man, but I could still just be delirious, and we're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, and how would you know? You can't know. I
Right?
don't.
Yeah, I mean, after 16 hours, spoiler, I'm just glad I'm not dead.
Yes. It was a hell of a thing, and you know what, guys, we got a fun episode for you tonight. We're gonna cover some news. We're gonna cover our basic intros. Scott has a meaty rules section because we all got fact right before Iron Man, and then of course we are going to talk about our Iron Man recap, how it went, how we liked our decks, and kind of thoughts for the future. And then of course we'll close it out with a little bit of tentacle time. So, of course, Iron Man happened. We're going to push the actual discussion for that to the end of the episode for anyone who might not be interested in our escapades. But I did want to mention a couple things. If you participated, particularly if you signed up for prize drawings, do go out and check the prize channel on the Farkham Knights server and contact Josh, DeLarp guy, our head what was his official title? Head cultist? Where did we land on that?
Head cultist of sorting, I think.
Yeah.
We're trying to do a sorting hat thing, but yeah.
Sort you into classes instead of houses. But if to see if you won, go check that channel and then message Josh, because he said that there are still a few prizes out there that have yet to be claimed. So you don't want to miss out on that. There was a really good prize pool. And thanks to Josh for first managing all of that, and then as well for support providing. Wow, guys, it's going to be a long night. For providing a solid chunk of that prize support. So go check that out. as I mentioned last episode, we had a special, cheesy, amazing logo drawn up with the prominent community member and graphic designer Pat, and it's awesome. It's cheesy. Justin's already gotten asked about it as if it were a real running event, which was the dream to begin with.
I could have quit that day happy when it happened.
So we're definitely going to keep that out there, obviously. And again, I personally apologize because I procrastinated on how much lead time all of this would require. We got the listing out on mythosmerch.com a little bit late in the game, so not everyone was able to actually get their shirts or mugs or whatever they wanted for the actual event. But if you participated, we definitely still want you to be able to take a little bit of commemoration as a part of it. So we're going to leave those listings up there for a limited time. At this point, we're looking probably maybe to the end of the year, but we'll see how it goes. So just if that's something you want, we're definitely going to put the image in the show notes, so check it out if you haven't already. And mythosmerch.com, get out there and get yours.
Mine came right after. It came the Monday.
Mine came on Monday too.
I was so sad.
I walked out to the mailbox and I was like, oh yeah, womp womp.
Yeah. I have used the mug like 4 times already, though. So
yes, I did have the mug, which was great. Okay, so now I know the majority of the Arkham y'all have played recently, but I do want to check in a little bit. Has anyone been playing any Arkham after Iron Man, aside from Scott and I streaming, or has it been a lull?
Sunday night, Casey and I started.
God, you are fucking unstoppable, Scott. Good lord.
Oh,
you have no bottom.
Oh, all my bottoms are power bottoms. Yeah, Casey and I started a 2-player campaign of Innsmouth. I'm doing Silas because I want to do someone Innsmouthy, and so I went with Silas, and I'm using both his novella cards and his proper cards, I guess.
Sure.
And Casey went with Amanda, who is also super Innsmouthy, and seems to be doing all right. Yeah, I have to figure out how to get more clues with Silas. I'm still not fully sure on that, but I mean, Amanda's mostly doing that. First scenario, super awesome. Second scenario reminds me of a Lord of the Rings scenario that came out.
It does.
In a very good way. But
which one, dare you say?
Is it too spoilery if I say it, Ian?
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I respect that. I still have yet to have a chance to play. I think I mentioned a game I have set up on my table just about every time we record because I just always have one going. But I had this Amanda and Sister Mary game set up when we played Iron Man last weekend. It still is untouched from last time, so I still have yet to get I have yet to get past the first turn of the Innsmouth conspiracy. So yeah, looking forward to that. All right, so let's go to patron news. Ian, what business have we?
Well, first off, thanks to our Bourne members. That's Chris B, Chris H, and Chris M, our conglomeration of Chris's. Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Dave, Abilio, Nathan, Chad, and Robert. Thanks so much for all your support and helping us put on all these events that we've been able to put on during this quarantine year. Special shout out to a random patron this time around is to Derek Bessie. If you haven't yet gone to mythosmerch.com, we mentioned already that we had our special sweet Iron Man merch made for Iron Man. So if you want to go check that out on mythosmerch.com, that would be fantastic. The Arbit's token discount code, this still applies, right? There wasn't a expiration date on this?
I'm pretty sure it applies, yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be out for apply for a very long time.
Okay.
I mean, until the stock of our special tokens runs out, as far as I'm aware.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, our special Mythos Busters Doom and Clue tokens that we partnered with Arbitz to make one-of-a-kind tokens. If you want to get your hands on those are available at Arbitz, and there's a special discount code for any listeners, only for our listeners, which is Mythos Busters Direct. Not Mythos Busters, Mythos Busters Direct. And that'll get you a nice discount on those tokens, which are just amazing every time I look at them. I never get tired of looking at them.
Yeah. I say it every time we talk about it, but they came out so much better than even I had dared to hope for. They are my daily driver. I'm the kind of person who I have several token sets, and like I switch back and forth a lot of the time just because, you know, I like the novelty of it, but these have not left my token box since they came out.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Any tattoo updates, Sean? We did actually get to see it in the flesh during during Iron Man on video. At least we got to see a preview of it.
It's almost healed. There was a like the portal. Oh man, the portal was spicy. It hurt a lot on the day, and it has taken the longest of any piece of it to heal. But we're almost there. And now that Iron Man is done and I actually have some spare brain space to toss at our other obligations, I'm definitely going to be throwing together an edit of the video of me getting it. And we'll see if we can get a supercut of me wincing in pain, because I'm pretty sure I got at least a couple of really spicy bits on camera. So I can't say for sure when that'll be out because I haven't edited video, like legit edited video, since high school. So I have no idea how long it's going to take me to get it to a point where I want other people to see it. But I will definitely blast it when it's out there because it was a fun process. And my tattoo artist is just a fascinating woman.
I already have an idea of a song to put in the background. And it's not a Scott song, but an actual song. And timing your too.
Scott songs are actual songs.
Yeah. I guess.
I'll validate that.
Okay.
And our final piece of Patreon news, I think, is just to say that we're going to be working hard on finishing up Dissonant Voices in the next couple of months and wrapping up the campaigns that we still need to complete, like Carcosa and the rest of TCU, etc. So look for those if you're a patron to be posted in the following months coming up here. We're really aiming to pound those out and get those done before the end of the year.
Yeah, 2020 is going to be, before the close of 2020, we will have completed our backlog of patron goal obligations because, boy, I'm framing this like a problem, but it's only a problem because of how far behind we are. But you guys have blasted through our stretch goals so much faster than we expected we would. We didn't even think we would get to some of these, let alone how quickly we did. So thanks to everyone for your support.
You guys thought the tattoo was a joke when we brought that up.
Yeah.
And that still just makes me so happy that you thought you were not going to have to get inked.
Every time I look at it, I sit here going like, and when Justin said it, we all just laughed to each other like it would never happen, and here it is on my arm for the rest of my life.
What did you learn?
Yeah.
You're always right. But yeah, so it's going to be a thing. We're going to get caught up, and then we're going to look to the future because we've got some fun ideas for stretch goals going forward.
Right
Is that it for patron stuff?
That is it.
Perfect. Sorry, you guys heard me taking my victory sip there. All right. So we were a little light on news this cycle, but we did have an interesting kind of OP art. It came out as an article. So Justin, since you're kind of the one who's plugged into that, why don't you run us through it?
Yeah, absolutely. FFGOP has started a play and share campaign where they are trying to increase engagement on social media. And the carrot for all of us is that if enough posts get out there, they will unlock extra content and it will eventually be printed up, which is kind of cool. We'll have the link to the article in the show notes for sure, but the gist of it is that if you are playing any FFG game, post about it, put a picture up, put an anecdote, and use the hashtag FFG play and share. They're going through all basically counting it all up to then tally toward which game is involved. Do look at the article because they do want you to do certain things in the post in terms of naming the game, naming what scenario you're playing, if you're playing Arkham, that sort of thing, so that people who aren't familiar with the games then get more exposure to it. I can tell you right now, after Iron Man, there's a lot of Arkham content out there. It is the majority of what the hashtags are. So big win there, and we should probably keep that rolling. So guys, we might have to think of some fun prompts to throw out to the community so that we can unlock the maximum amount of content.
I agree.
We'll have some fun with that. And we did confirm with FFG that even though the article only says posts on Facebook and Twitter count, Instagram does count as well. So just post that everywhere, blast it everywhere. Let's unlock as much Arkham content as we can.
I would love to see a bar graph like as like a per day thing and just see how much that hashtag got used on Saturday for Iron Man. Like how many people, like, was it just like their, you know, the guy who does their marketing comes in on a Monday. He's like, oh, I wonder how the weekend went. And there's just like hundreds upon hundreds of Arkham hashtags for it.
Well, and it wasn't hundreds, and I don't have the full graph for you, Scott, but I can tell you because I already started crunching the numbers.
Of course you did, and I love you for
right?
that.
That on now this was I think yesterday, so it's a little behind, but it was, when I say the majority, I truly mean that of the posts up there were Arkham related, and through yesterday, the majority of the Arkham related ones also had the Iron Man hashtag on them.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we'll come up with some fun prompts. We'll keep the community engagement going. If anybody's listening to this and has ideas for what fun prompts would be for some different social posts,
we are not too proud to steal them.
Yeah, please ping us in Discord, and we will take it under advisement.
Excellent. Okay, Scott, I think it's time.
It's time for you to get fact. In case anyone is not aware, there was a FAQ released that involved a taboo list of sorts. It happened less than 2 weeks before Iron Man. So a lot of people, I would say, jumped ship on what they were planning on doing. So let's cover all the boring stuff first. The FAQ, and then I think we can dive into the taboo part of it. So there's some clarification on Return to Threads of Fate. Randall Cho and Amanda Sharp got fixed up because Randall Cho, he had the fast action trigger instead of the reaction trigger. So a bunch of little cleanup stuff like that. Stuff about
what happened with
cards.
Amanda? I missed that one.
It was, instead of reaction, it was forced. It's
you have to commit that card?
No, you have to put a card underneath her every turn.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
like a lot of these ones are just like the way you read the card. It's the way you were playing it. It's just making it legal. You know what I mean?
Wait. Wait.
Yeah.
But the as printed, forced is already there for like putting a card underneath her. The reaction is to commit it. So her committing is now a forced ability.
The committing is a forced ability. Yes.
Dang
that's
it. Okay. Well, that changes her a little bit. Boy, that I might take out one copy of the that mystic one that adds curses.
Just go for it. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot more attractive when you could choose whether or not you're going to put it into any given test. Interesting.
Signature cards. This was an interesting one with when Harvey came out with his version of the Necronomicon, and people were asking, because of Daisy's Necronomicon, can she have 2 copies of the Necronomicon because one of them is unique? And basically, signature cards do not abide by typical deck building restrictions, so they don't count towards any deck building limitations if other cards share the same title or whatever. So Daisy could in fact have 3 different copies of the Necronomicon in her deck if she was playing through Dunwich. Yeah. So,
all right.
Let's see. Any more boring stuff? Bless and curses don't carry over between scenarios.
Cool.
As if everyone's favorite.
Oh boy.
F.
So I will encourage everyone to read the actual FFG article about this, because MJ, and I assume that Jeremy contributed to this as well, they went through like all the reasons for different taboos and all different changes, and like explained a lot of it, a lot of the man behind the curtain stuff, which from our history, from each of our different projects, we know FFG has always been very like cards to the chest kind of thing about everything, it seems, like in the design process. And this is one of the first articles I've seen where it's just like, here was our thought processes, here's what some ideas we had. Like, it really opens it up. And I think in the past FFG has been a bit scared to show that, and I'm not sure why. But
because
like,
their process design is basically akin to nuclear codes for some reason.
yeah, and so this was really refreshing to see, and I hope this continues, because it was amazing, especially as a huge fan of the game. I want to know the nitty gritty. I want to know what MJ and Jeremy are thinking when they make these decisions, especially for Taboo. But so As If got changed to basically be a lot simpler, because the previous one was still a bit confusing. So they've reversed their ruling, and basically now the game state is considered to be altered throughout the duration of the indicated ability or action, from its initiation through to the resolution of each aspect of its effect and up until its completion. So including paying for its cost, attack of opportunity, like from the very beginning of like, I am going to play a card, to it fully finishing, if it's doing something as if you are there. So the big example is Luke, right? If he's playing an event, when are you officially there? As soon as you like touch the card in your hand to play it, you are now at that location, as if you were at that location. So, yeah.
That seems far more intuitive to me.
I think that's why they made that change.
Yeah.
I would call them sister podcasts, but our third cousin podcast, the Purple Card, Two Clues, Read the Signs. What's God, I always forget their names. Anyways, Peter on that
Stirring
show.
up trouble.
Stirring up trouble. Wait, that's a yellow card. Still gets 2 clues.
Damn. Still 2 clues. It's fine.
Peter mentioned, he basically said about the previous As If rules that he's like, I just don't deal with them. And if someone brings Luke to the table, they just have to deal with them.
Sound policy.
Perfectly valid.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the big change to As If. And I believe that's it until we get to, and there's a bunch of other clarification questions, but y'all can read those because they're like nitty gritty cases. Taboo list.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Okay.
Oh boy.
This is what we came for.
So, oh boy.
Get ready for the juice.
So the guts of the article, a lot of it was talking about the taboo list and reasons that they chose to change some of the things there. And it was really great because they were even throwing in they took it lightheartedly. Halfway through the article, they name another card, and like the great Seeker nerf of 2020 continues.
Yes. Love it.
Because I guess it had to happen. So I figure we can go over each one super quick and just, kind of knee-jerk reactions about it. I know there's going to few that are going to, I don't want to say trigger us, but trigger more conversation. But so for chained, so chained or unchained, it used to be just be chained. Chained or unchained, basically the experience amount has changed, but the level has not, which is important because even if it's chained plus 5 experience and it was a level 0 card, it can still go into anyone who could take level 0. It just costs 5 XP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Machete is now only plus 1 experience, not 2.
Okay. For someone who never thought that Machete was really as powerful as everyone talked about, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think
it was definitely too high at the previous XP cost, so this is better.
Yeah.
I haven't used it since the first taboo list hit, so I guess
Yep.
it's done its job.
Yeah.
I always forget it exists. So
Yeah.
that chaining did its job.
Yeah. It chained it right to the chains of my bike spokes.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like to that it seems like the goal of the taboo list is to try and shift deck building. And then, you know what, maybe down the road, these XP costs come down like machete. And it's like, okay, now I can reintroduce machete, but maybe it's not the best option, where before it was. Like, it just, it was that go-to one. So.
It's such a weird card. I don't want to delve too much into it because we have a bunch of cards to talk about. But just because Machete is such a multiplayer, different card in multiplayer versus solo, it's almost like you can never quite balance it right, because unless you had a separate solo multiplayer taboo basically.
List. Yeah. Pathfinder going up 2 experience. It's a really good card. It kind of sucks, but I think it's probably correct.
I think it's fair. It's super strong.
When you get 2 copies out,
well, maybe just make it unique then. Errata it. Well, whatever.
I think they mentioned in the article that was one they were considering making it limit 1 per deck, or that was something the community was saying. But
it's fine.
I think, I mean, it can be used and abused, but
yeah.
I mean, you saw Ursula last Iron Man, right?
Yeah, I think it was too cheap. Just I had always thought it was too cheap, and I think when you combine it with the other Seeker bullshit, like I think that's the problem, right? Is that it?
Like that's the thing. Is like on its own. Like if I'm taking that card in Luke or like an off-class Seeker, like whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it's one piece of an engine that just gets out of hand.
Yeah.
Higher Ed, Streetwise, and Scrapper all went down 2 experience from their previous taboo. So Higher Ed and Streetwise are just double, so they're now 6 experience instead of 3. Scrapper is just at a 4 instead of a 3.
I might actually play them again.
Yep, I love this change. Again, these are cards I've not touched since the original chaining, and this time I actually picked up Streetwise during Iron Man, so this immediately had dividends, because otherwise I wouldn't have touched it.
Yeah, Higher Ed was on my maybe list for Iron Man. I never got there, but if it had been still at 8 experience, it wouldn't even hit my maybe list. So
no,
I'm glad to see these.
Yeah.
Flamethrower +1 experience.
Like, really?
It's a
really good card. It asks a lot of you. It's not
Does
like
it though?
Slide it. Does it?
I don't think so. What does it ask of you? 2 hand slots? Are you really using your body
and
slot?
a body slot. Thank you very much.
Oh my god. What? For your bandolier? Like what?
Pushes the bandolier.
No, now I can't use level 0 backpack, Scott.
Okay. Well, you can to find the flamethrower, and then you just play the flamethrower.
Right over the backpack.
I think this is such a minor adjustment. I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah.
Flamethrower is so strong.
I could have lived without it, but I'm also fine with it. Just I've continually said it's like the biggest damage output option for Guardian, so I think it makes sense to pump it up a little. But I also when I play Flamethrower, I play a very specific Endless Flamethrower deck, so that alters my perception of the card a little bit, I think.
But like, it still is only stuff engaged with you. Like, I don't know. I guess I feel like it was still like, yeah, it's a big, powerful weapon, but I don't know. I guess I think the theme I'm gonna find here is that I'm just not as attuned to the degenerate decks that spawned these changes. So I'm gonna sit here and go like, why? So yeah.
There is some of that too, right? Like I don't think there's any degenerate decks with Flamethrower. I think Flamethrower on its own is just strong enough that MJ thought, you know what, it seems to be a very popular endgame weapon for Guardians. Let's just maybe push it a little higher so that other things, it's just trying to change the deck building a little bit, right?
Right. Trying to push it out of auto-include territory.
Yeah,
which
it just distinguishes it from the other level 5 weapons and saying, hey, this is a little bit stronger than the other level 5s.
Yeah. Okay, so the next 4 are all Seeker.
Yeah, they are.
Combining for a grand total of 12 extra experience. Yeah. For single copies, yeah. So Mr. Rook
Yeah.
God, +4 experience.
You know, I'm gonna find the episode where I said that Mr. Rook is better than Milan and everyone scoffed at me, and edit that in right here.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a thing that happens.
Okay, you go do that
Yeah, go for it.
because you're right.
Can you do it in the Ron Howard voice of "It was"?
Pretty much everyone knew Mr. Rook was going to be on this FAQ. Like, I think even people out there who don't play Arkham knew Mr. Rook was going to be on this taboo. I didn't necessarily expect the chaining approach, though. I thought his text might get altered a little bit.
I thought they were just gonna make him a hard action. That
which
solves so much of it.
Which I actually prefer, I think, versus the experience,
Same.
because now I think whenever the chaining happens, my first tendency is just to be like, just completely forget they exist when it comes time to upgrade.
And you know what? Honestly, maybe on the meta sense, maybe that's kind of the strategy. Just to be like, all right, you guys are going too crazy. Rook is an auto-include. No one builds a deck without him. Just forget he exists for a while. I'm going to put him out of range of it being worth it. And then, I don't know, like we saw with Machete, like after a while, after everyone's been like, okay, I'm off the Mr. Rook wagon, then maybe it'll come back down a little bit.
Yeah, and I think they even mentioned that in the article, that's kind of their thinking, is like kind of push it out of range, let people cool off, like take a time out and try out other cards, and then they can reel it back in. And they did mention in the article that they actually have a particular mutation in mind for Mr. Rook if they end up revisiting this card, if they want to pull him back to level 0. So,
Well, you know what they're doing there, like the telling everyone to cool off, is kind of working, right? Because Machete came back down, everyone forgot about it, and now it's like, well, 1 experience, actually, that's not too bad.
yeah.
And Higher Ed and Streetwise, right? Everyone was like, those are dead forever. And then they came back down, and everyone's like, well, now I consider them, but they're not an auto-include. So maybe we'll see Mr. Rook either come down in experience or, like you said, have a mutated thing.
Yeah. I think the one thing we should talk about before we go on with Mr. Rook is because he's just generally a good ally. Like, for a lot of decks you can take him. When I couldn't think of an ally to take, it's like, well, duh, just take Mr. Rook. Like, he's going to make any deck better, pretty much. Unless you have, like, some terror bad weakness that you don't want to see, like Doomed or something.
Yeah.
But for Mandy specifically, I've seen a lot of debate, like, does this kill Mandy? Which is an exaggeration, of course. But, like, how much does this affect Mandy's power level, do we think?
I'd say significant enough that I switched from Mandy to Mandy for Iron Man.
Significant enough that I'm no longer going to champion 50-card Mandy.
Yeah, okay, so I have to say something too about the rest of this list, because there's a few cards in here. There is a certain combination of a bunch of these cards that when used together in Mandy, it makes an absolutely disgustingly broken deck. And I'm not one to use broken lightly, but I actually mean broken to the point where I believe it was Kuhadir who took Mandy through Depths of Yoth solo and was on like depth 9 or 10 and only halfway through the 3rd agenda and just stopped playing. Yeah.
I feel like Mandy is responsible for a lot of these taboo items this time around.
That begs the question to me, like, why don't you just kill the thing that's making all these combos? Like, instead of doing all these things to all these secret cards, why not just taboo Mandy somehow, right? Like, she's the engine that makes all these things happen, right? But
Well, I understand from a design perspective wanting to preserve the ability of an investigator because that is so core to an investigator's identity.
Yep.
But at the same time, it does seem like this was kind of a multi-part combo and like every piece got thrashed.
yes,
I don't know, maybe, again, I'm pretty disconnected from really knowing how all the degenerate decks work, but it seemed like maybe 1 or 2 pieces could have gotten thrashed and leave the rest alone.
And I think part of it, too, is some future proofing that, like, Mandy was so good just because of what she could do in terms of like drawing through her deck and searching and making that so consistent. But we could potentially get other gators in the future who are like really good at enabling these type of combos. So I think it's a little bit of future proofing that they need to hit some of these people. Maybe not all of them needed to be hit, but when we look at stuff like Knowledge is Power, I think that definitely needed to be hit. Sleight of hand had to be hit just because of how they interact with some of the stuff.
So knowledge of power, +2 experience. Honestly, I think it's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's
As the person who's been like crying about how good it is from the beginning, before I feel like many people figured out how good it is, I'm sad, but I get it.
It's too strong at level 0.
What's sad is that I like to use this in Mystic decks. I like to use this as like an extra charge where I feel like it's really not that busted. But in in Seeker shit, like I get it.
Yeah. Ian, to your point about, kind of future proofing and stuff, and hitting some of the tools just because they were also good and broken on their own. Mr. Trench in chat says some of the most popular Trish and Amanda decks were also rolling the same combos. So
oh yeah, I've been playing Amanda lately, and she just tears through her deck.
She can
like
draw cards, man.
I believe that. I totally believe that.
And if you go like Lab Assistant and Big Hand, like it doesn't take many actions to draw through the like 10 cards that are left in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think every game I've played with her, I've gone through her deck at least once for sure.
So she would probably really be a good target for Segment of Onyx, which got hit with +3 experience, which of note, it is Myriad, so it was at 1, now it's at 4. It still costs 4 for all 3 of them.
That seems entirely reasonable.
Yeah,
I think this is
that's
absolutely
fair.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super
That's the least offensive one on this list to me.
Despite the fact I never got this put together in Iron Man, having it in my deck
Not the
for
one.
6 scenarios, never once putting that queen pendant thing in. Ugh.
I do want to go back
Mandy
through
would
the
have
video
gotten
and
it
see how many.
together.
I want to go back through the video and see how many icons you committed off of your pieces of Onyx.
Dozens. Because I had scavenging to bring them back. So,
Yeah.
it was just recurring.
chucking Onyx pieces at people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. XP cost.
For a Myriad card, for sure.
Necronomicon.
Oh, boy.
Beatrice to Dacia translation. It is now +3 experience, so it's 8 experience. This just came out.
Yeah, okay, that was just what I was going to say. It's just like, I'm not like actually offended by any of this. It's fine, and I understand that there are reasons behind balancing stuff, but don't you hate it when like a card just comes out and like suddenly it's nerfed? Mm-hmm. And it's like, what the? I didn't even really get to play with it.
Yeah, I know some players have mentioned that, just like, wait, I didn't even get to try it out and see how broken it was for myself, because I know some people, they like proxying stuff in advance, and so by the time the thing has come out, they've already broken it. So on the one hand, it's nice that we have this kind of instant update, like a day of release patch in video game terms.
Yeah,
for
day
it.
0 patch. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I do see that of like, I wish I would have gotten to try it out. Like, I tried it out a little bit beforehand just to see how messed up it could be, and it was messed up, but...
Network 57 brings up, I believe he's referring to the Star Wars LCG card, Hyperspace Jump. That was eroded an hour after the preview article. Oh, Destiny. there was a Star Wars LCG card that, like, before, like, it was a month before the pack came out. Mm-hmm. There was already an errata or something in an official errata for it. Like, it was ridiculous. So
I also remember how quickly they had to errata the dash and the freeholders pods, and it was just like, how did this get through playtesting?
Well, if they didn't errata it too quick, not quick enough, because half of the regionals had that legal, and it was stupid.
Yep.
Anyways, Arkham. Yeah, Necronomicon. Here's the thing. It was strong because of, I think, sleight of hand and knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And
So that's what I was wondering. Like, with the changes to Knowledge's Power and Sleight, did it need this +3?
I personally
Look,
don't think it did.
As a person who's yet to actually be able to put this in a deck, at limit 1 per deck and 8 XP, I'm never looking at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it's dead.
And that means I never have looked at it, which is kind of a bummer for me.
Yeah.
Because
Like, I
the
get
draw
Taboo
the
is
draw to
optional,
the like the abilities are cool and powerful, like being able to free trigger 3 damage. Obviously that's powerful, but like the way you're going to tear through those secrets, like the draw of this card was that you could recur it through this Jankery, which is a weird catch-22. Like, the reason people wanted to play it is to recur it and break it, but then if you break it, then now it's been errated and now no one's going to play it because...
And now you can't buy it.
Yeah, like, what would you spend 8 XP on something you get 6 secrets worth? I know there's other secret cards that add secrets, so maybe you could build a deck in that, and I'm sure some crazy deck builder will build a deck that just keeps piling secrets on it, but it's still a hard sell compared to just sleight of handing this into play, which I don't think you should be able to do, by the way, but...
Which you no longer can.
Yep.
So.
Right. I mean, honestly, the Necronomicon is pretty comparable to the Pendant of the Queen in kind of its flexibility and what it does. And oh boy, I don't know. I'm kind of bummed about it. This is honestly the piece that I looked at it and I was like, did we need to nerf every piece of the combo?
I know the rules of the taboo list say you have to use it all, but honestly, like, for someone like you, Sean, who has not yet used the Necronomicon, and you play taboo, and you don't plan to use it and abuse it the reason it's tabooed, you know what I mean?
Right.
I am totally of the mind that, you know what, you can use the Necronomicon as printed, just as it is. Like, right? Like, if you're not going to...
And I might.
It's kind of like the whole drawing thin and, the shoes, track shoes, where people were putting track shoes in just to have a test for drawing thin that they didn't care about failing.
Right, a test without recourse.
Right, and so to me, like, I'm like, well, I don't play that Jankery, so why does drawing thin have to suffer in my deck because other people want to use track shoes, even though I never plan on using track shoes?
I asked that exact question. Drawing thin was in my Iron Man deck until very late in the process where we all decided to, like, just be taboo, and I was like, I'm not going to be the only one not doing it, even though I'm like playing drawing thin without track shoes in TCU is actually risky, but I ended up not doing it.
I guess there's still a couple jank options. Like, what's the upgrade ally where you can pop a tome back to hand?
Witten? No, the docent?
Yeah, library docent. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the thing is you can still do a little bit of jankery, but it's gonna cost you because
The docent's an upgrade card too.
yeah, I can't remember exact XP. I think it's 2 or 3 or something.
I think she's either 1 or 2, so it's probably 2.
And you can still do Knowledge's Power, but if you do 2 copies, that's like 4 XP plus 8. You're looking at 12 XP. Like, basically, you are a Necronomicon deck at that point.
Well,
Docent is 1 XP, level 1.
Okay, that's not too bad, actually, then.
J. Paul mentions in chat, though, Min with scavenging can still bring back that Necronomicon.
True.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, cool. It's not like is Min a busted investigator?
no,
She's no Mandy,
she's not.
as Scott can attest to.
Sadly, I can't. Okay, let's keep moving on. We're gonna talk about the
yeah.
Okay. Mutated list. So, additional or altered text. Quick thinking got max once per round.
Reasonable.
Sure.
And now I will no longer versatile into it with Amanda.
I mean, oh yes, it's for Amanda is the reason this happened.
Yep.
For everyone besides Amanda, I think this is like cool. It doesn't change a thing. Almost. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there may have been times where you used a couple on a round, but it's not a big deal.
yeah. Sleight of hand got you can now read, or it now reads, put a level 0 to 3 item asset into play from your hand. So you can have two-handed weapons now, but it has to be 0 to 3. So you can still do Lupara. I guess that was one-handed. You can still pull out like a Thompson. A baseball bat, I guess.
That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. I feel like it's actually a hint away from being thematic,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess I get where they're going with the balance of it.
Yeah, I have one big gripe with this change, which is sawed-off shotgun not being able to be sleight-of-handed into play. Because it's a level 5, and it's a one-hand, so before you could do it.
Yeah.
But which was kind of one of the pretty much the main way you to use that card. Otherwise, at 2 ammo, it's not that great a choice. So that's just kind of a sad theme hit there.
Unfortunately,
Wait.
I think it was because the Necronomicon.
Yep,
Is why Sleight got
100%
hit.
because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sleight of hand
Wait, so-
Necronomicon was ridiculous, so it needed to be hit, but.
Does this ability just replace the first sentence in that card, or do you now no longer return that card to your hand at the end of the turn?
You still return it to the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just clarify, because that's super important.
Yeah. You know what I feel about sleight of hand. I think this is MJ and Jeremy tinkering with it, trying to find its final form,
Yeah.
and this is getting closer to what the final form is. I think.
Yeah. It's one of the trickiest cards in the pool to balance, I think, because it's so open to abuse to get use out of cards that you usually unlimited by charges or ammo or something.
Every time you create an item asset
Yep.
in the game, okay, better check
Right.
it with sleight of hand, right? In every
Yeah.
investigator that can take it,
Yeah.
it's
You don't want to be cramped for design space. So I get even in like knowledge is power. Like that's a card I love. It's a card I've been playing as often as I can play it. But I understand how it cramps design space. So I support those decisions, I guess.
all in.
Begrudgingly.
All in, the amazing rogue skill. At the end of its ability, this card gains remove all in from the game.
Aw. You don't want to keep looping for 16 cards a turn.
Totally fair change. Most of these endless loop decks I saw were abusing all in, so
Yeah.
I think it needed to happen.
For people who are using all in not a looping janky way, I don't think this changes much.
Nope.
It's just like
I mean, it does in that card decks that draw a lot will loop their decks more, so you're missing out on this your second time through. But yeah, I get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is maybe my second favorite change here. Scroll of Secrets, all 3 versions went from action to fast triggered ability.
Yeah.
What a buff!
Huge
Like-
buff. Huge.
Huge. These cards are playable now.
I know, it's amazing.
It's
I
too bad all
might
my
look at
copies.
these at some point.
It's too bad all my copies are bent from the bike's posts.
Gotta take them down from the attic.
Yeah. Dust off the mothballs.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yes.
I love that the taboo list taketh, but it also giveth.
Yeah, I do appreciate that, because usually a lot of errata in games is focused on nerfing cards, but to actually have some buffing options is nice.
My number one favorite, though, and here's the big buff,
Yep.
the Winchester.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now instead of action, if it's a 0 +1 or Elder Sign, it's fight, you get +2 for this attack. If the Chaos token with a non-negative modifier is revealed during this attack deals +2 damage. I will also add that this is amazing with Blessed tokens, obviously. There's also already Gymchester decks out, because the skulls are now non-negative.
Non-negative.
And even if you do draw a negative sign, like a -2 at the end, but you drew a Blessed token first, a non-negative like a token with a non-negative modifier was revealed. So even though you had to draw another, there was one with a non-negative modifier. So yeah, a nun with a gun. Anybody?
Hashtag WIN Chester.
Yep.
Yeah, I do want to try the Nun with a Gun deck, because I've been playing around with Sister Mary, and she gets quite a bit of plus tokens in the bag, especially in like 2-player lower accounts. So,
And then Winchester has like 5 ammo, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah.
ammo. Yeah.
So now I really want to build Sniper Nun with like telescopic sight and stick to the plan with extra ammo.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
all the blessed token stuff. So it's just, she's just like
just posted up
wrecking
sniping
shop.
monster.
oh,
Well, the nice thing is it's still balanced by those 2 hand slots, so you got to give up your hands to make it happen. So
that's
yeah.
fine.
I like this
They're-
change.
They're hands of God now.
Jesus, take the wheel. Jesus, take the Winchester.
Jesus, take the Winchester.
Jesus, take the Winchester. There
All
it
right,
is.
well, that's the deck title.
Yep.
There it is. We got there.
Oh.
I was trying to figure out a pun with none. Like, none of your nonsense.
Yeah.
But that's way better.
None your business. Last card, no big deal on the forbidden list. First banned card of the game, double or nothing.
Oh my gosh.
No big deal. It's just the developers going, don't
Yeah.
include this card under any circumstances.
I think
At
I
no
underst-
XP cost are we okay with it.
I think I understand. I mean, I rarely played this card. It just didn't appeal to me. But I understand how it could be broken, and I think it just limits design space to a point where it's just like the best solution is just to be like, no, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I am both sad and understanding of why this was added. I'm sad because I always loved the theme of this card, and as a rogue gambler player, like, the way I used it was often just as a true gamble, like, I'm
Right.
doubling the difficulty of this test. It's going to make it hard. I'm going to chuck a bunch of stuff in here. So it's a big gamble. I might fail, but I might, come up big. And especially in solo or lower counts,
Yeah.
because you're kind of limited in how much you can check into the test. It's a real limit. But I think this was getting abused a lot in like higher player counts, 3 or 4 player, where you can
Yeah.
kind of team up and everyone's committing cards and you're pumping up your skill to crazy levels. So the double
And play a
difficulty.
premonition ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like,
And you have
Who
all
does
This player
these
killed this card.
all
We
these
have done
skills
that.
and triggers that
exactly.
are going off of it. So yeah, I think that's really what resulted in getting it banned, that ultimately it's just too hard to
It's
counter as a designer or
I-
to
I
design
get it.
for.
I am glad that we got in our 16 damage double or nothing Safina with premonition to kill
Storm of
4
Spirits.
enemies on the Yellow King's palace.
Oh yeah, that was
Carcosa.
great. Yeah.
The Storm of Spirits test, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, some network brings this up because this is one of the funniest parts that I think came from this whole taboo list. Is some people basically, and I think FFG provided some of the images for the cards now. Like they're providing a digital image so you can print it out and slip it in your card sleeve or whatever, with the new text, and
cool.
and so the double or nothing just says forbidden on it. But someone edited one in that says max 0 per test, which just tickled me the right way. So,
Awesome.
but yeah, there you go. You've just been fact.
Oof.
Wow. That was heavy. The hammer got swung.
Yeah,
That was a
the-
serious fact.
The great Seekers got fact is what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I will fully admit.
If
yeah.
anyone deserved it.
Yep.
I feel like most taboo lists and fact articles are usually, it's just mostly yellow and green cards. Like Seeker and Rogues are the ones always getting hit by these, I feel like.
Yeah, as someone who plays mostly Survivor, well, I play everything, but I play a lot of Mystic and Survivor, so, building a taboo compliant deck is pretty easy for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
But overall, just as final thoughts, I thought this was a really kind of targeted and thought out list for the most part. I know there were some rumblings along the way about Seekers getting too powerful in various parts of the community. And I think for the most part, they hit the cards that needed to be hit. And it was a nice surgical strike to take
Yeah.
Seekers down a peg.
Yeah, I think it as much as like some of me is like, ugh, because it hit me right before Iron Man, and just
Yeah.
all my planning and stuff like that. It's just like, well, out the window. Okay, I guess I'm just like hard left turn into Min, which ended up working fine.
And yet, we prevailed.
And yet, yeah, I think this is pretty bang on. There's a few small changes I personally would have made, but I think this is an absolute great taboo list change for the way the game is right now.
Yep.
Network, that wasn't surgical unless your surgeon uses a claymore. Yeah, that's very-
Wait,
Yours
more
does
mine
it?
or giant sword?
Have I been going to the wrong surgeon
both.
this whole time?
Is that not standard surgical equipment?
Yeah, exactly.
There's trip mines at the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think then that is a decent enough segue with Scott talking about how his deck got nerfed into our Iron Man 2020 recap, the Circle Undone. Oh boy, the all 16 plus hours of footage is out there on our Twitch and on our YouTube.
Yep.
So, boy, there is just so much content for you guys to watch and pause and slowly get through over a number of days. I'm doing it. I can remember barely anything from that day. So,
was
it's
a blur.
out there. It was a thing. It was a thing. Scott, I know you were kind of Iron Man is always a team sport, but I feel like you're the strongest champion among us. So why don't you kind of guide us through Iron Man debrief? Bring us down, baby.
As much as I love that, I also have to give a huge shout out to Ian, because Ian did like the planning this year. So Ian, your spreadsheet, I think let's hold our applause until we get to Before the Black Throne, because I think that is where like all the fruit of Ian's labor was harvested.
Yep.
Was Before the
100%.
Black Throne. So let's do a super quick rundown of our decks. We're going to have them posted on ArkhamDB or published up there so people can take a look. Sean, tell us about your Patrice.
Yes, so my mitigation Patrice, my no fate Patrice, as I'm calling it. And you know what? I'm just going to be a total like and karma whore here. Go give it a like on ArkhamDB, because it worked exactly according to plan. I think, I was flexy, but the strategy of playing was kind of more toward enemy focus and toward mitigation with recurring Alter Fate as many times as I could.
Alter Fate.
And between Alter Fate, I was running 4 cancel events. I was running both Test of Will and Ward of Protection. And the fact that I was just crazy cranking out willpower and was able to get treacheries off people. Like, my goal of taking the pressure off my teammates was achieved. And in the meantime, my deck had the ability to commit tons of icons to other people and flex when I needed to. And you know what? Like, Patrice in general, when you have a really good Patrice deck, and I put this in the deck description on ArkhamDB. So again, go check it out. Give it a like, favorite. Playing a well-rounded Patrice deck is like Arkham Jazz. Like, every turn, every hand that you draw presents to you a puzzle to maximize. And it is just such a damn good time. I am not sick of this deck at all. I will probably continue to tweak it for other campaigns. And I have no complaints. It worked exactly as I projected it to.
It was
And it beat Azathoth with a live and learn, so...
Spoilers, God. As someone who played across the table from it, it felt great to have you dealing with all the shitty stuff. Ian.
So I played Tony. This is what I've dubbed Tony the Strangler deck. And that is also... Just shushing a lot of enemies throughout TCU over 16 hours. So this was really dedicated to dealing as much damage as possible and being efficient with actions through using stuff like Garrote Wire. Originally, I had planned to grab Double. I had included a lot of Guardian events from Nathaniel's pack, which I was hoping to eventually double up, like 1-2 Punch and Monster Slayer. Unfortunately, in the heat of Iron Man, I had to make some audibles and changes to my upgrade plan, and I never got to get double. But the deck still did what it was meant to do, which is just put out lots of damage and kill lots of enemies as much as possible. And I would have to say the reason I went with Tony the Strangler is because Garrottwire was, if not the MVP, one of the MVPs of the deck.
That card did so much damn work.
Just so much work. Such a good card. I know sometimes I've seen people question, should I put one or two? Just put two in there to make it consistent, because it's gonna do so much work, especially in high multiplayer when, like, okay, there's a cultist there. Do I really want to spend an action to kill this guy, or can I just do a free action with Garrottwire and just take care of it? So that was definitely a key part of the plan. The rest of the deck is, what you might expect. Like I use Switchblade as my main weapon. I think the main thing I'll mention are the changes I made to my upgrade path. So originally I had planned on replacing Lonnie with Delilah, like a straight up replacement. But because of what happened in the first scenario, which we'll talk about in a second, I made a hard swerve.
Because of the happening.
And decided that I needed to shore up my horror soak options. And so I grabbed Charisma instead and went with both Delilah and Lonnie, which I think ended up being the right choice, because I didn't struggle as much with horror for the rest of the campaign once I did that. So I would recommend that. Yeah, if you're playing especially TCU, make sure you get your horror soaks in there for Tony.
Yeah, you didn't get knocked out again after that first time.
Nope.
Yep. I don't even think it came close.
Nope.
No.
Yep. All right. My deck, after Mandy was lightly set aside, and by lightly set aside I mean like swatted off my desk in anger.
Straight into the garbage
put through the
can.
shredder.
Yeah.
The paper pieces were put into the incinerator, and then all of the ash was like spread over the Atlantic.
My wife walks into the office, it's just yellow cards scattered across the ground. So I switched to Min. The idea for me with my Mandy deck was I was going to use obviously all the secret bullshit we know and love, and then use Survivor as the off class, and use all the different ways in Survivor to do multi-clues. So winging it and fortuitous discovery were the main parts. I was going to use active desperation to throw away my fingerprint kits and get money back for them, to continue just fueling whatever I needed to do. And then resourceful and scrounge for supplies to gain back from the discard pile. And the idea with fortuitous discovery is basically once I get 3 cards in my discard pile, I just keep on pulling back that third copy of fortuitous discovery, and it essentially acts as a upgraded deduction. And so in 4-player, I figured that just I'm the seeker, and my whole goal was to just get as many clues as quickly as possible, just hoover them all up, and that was going to be the plan.
And how'd that go for you?
Well, okay, so when Mandy got trashed, I basically took that deck and put it into Min. And I decided, because she obviously can take all the cards I wanted to take, plus she could also take scrounge for supplies. Or not scrounge for supplies, scavenging. And so active desperation suddenly got better, because I could throw my fingerprint kit, and then I could scavenge it back, and then play with the money I got from active desperation. And I actually went with versatile as one of my first upgrades to just include more card draw, which sounds really weird, but I thought it would work. Anyways, turns out it didn't. I still hate versatile in most decks now. Fortuitous discovery, that whole janky plan I had, I think I played a full 3-clue fortuitous discovery twice the entire campaign. And
That sounds about right.
I also upgraded into the segments of Onyx, because I'm like, well, I'm drawing so much, like I'm gonna get the Pendant of the Queen in. I had it in my deck for I believe 6 scenarios, did not get it out a single time, because the pendants were just really nice to commit, because they have a wild icon and Min adds another one. And then I could grab them back with scavenging. So I'm like, well, I'll commit them and then just grab them back, and eventually I'll get all 3. and that didn't happen either. But yeah, so then my upgrade path was just general seeker good stuff. Upgrade my deductions, upgrade my perceptions. Goodness, what else? I got the cryptic research. Yeah, just random seeker good stuff, and it just did good things. So,
Yep.
hashtag seeker deck. I don't know what to
It
say.
added a lot of bonus icons to committals because,
Yeah.
especially like I feel like I was committing a lot of cards that you were enhancing throughout the.
Yes. Well, we stuck together a lot.
Yeah.
So you were throwing cards, and I was throwing cards, and I'm just like, you get a min bonus, you get a min bonus, and yeah.
And despite the fact, I have to say, despite the fact that you had both the King in Yellow and the Tower in your min deck, like that to me is just like I don't even want to fucking play that. Like, just never mind. Like you just soldiered through it, and it was fun to watch.
It was tough, but it was good. I kept my curve as low as I could, and I just lowered my curve with every upgrade, and up the icons. So, Justin, instead of Nick, because Nick had to move, you filled in like last minute for Nick.
Yeah, new Nick.
Yeah, new Nick, out with the old Nick, in with the new Justin.
Hold on, let me get my keyboard real loud.
My God,
indistinguishable.
It's like he's actually here.
Spot on.
Something RPGs. Yeah. No, I did. Yeah.
No, hey,
Well,
that's me.
That one's legit.
Yeah, Justin was one of the chosen on that one.
Yeah. No, I thank you guys for asking me to fill in for Nick. That it was fun. I ran an Agnes deck that Sean helped me build to be as flexible as possible, and it definitely did that.
And Nick was in on that one, to his credit.
Yes, he was. Yep. And then, yeah, the upgrade path was pretty straightforward. I should probably share the link, or Sean, if you could throw that in chat, and we'll have it in the show notes.
Ninja.
Yeah, I mean, Clairvoyance does its thing. Shriveling did its thing. Eventually get those wards upgraded, and it's just Agnes doing Agnes stuff. But I was thinking about this after the fact, and it worked pretty well that it wasn't just in the individual situations that it flexed, but I realized that there were multiple times where I was just off, kind of like, hey, can you go evade or kill that thing so we can do the other stuff? And it was both flexing in what my deck could do and where I could go. So it was really cool just to see all the different ways it could morph when needed.
It ended up being a super flexible deck, and unfortunately, for my own pride, I have to recant just about everything I've ever said about Heirloom of Hyperborea.
Right?
I think no fewer than like 4 scenarios you got that within either in your opening hand or within like the first 2 turns, and played it down. And the way we ended up building your deck was very purple, so like it just drew cards.
Mm-hmm. But I did have to ask twice, like, is this a trap?
Yeah.
And we were like, most of the time, yes, but go for it.
Yeah. Not in your opening hand, it isn't.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I tend to always think of Agnes as a killer just because of her ability, and that's how I've usually played her. But witnessing that whole campaign, she was super flexy. Like, we didn't really have a good evade strategy for the greater good, but because of Peter's boost, Agnes kept evading stuff, which was helpful. And a lot of times Agnes, of course, could pitch in damage to take out an enemy that was across the board from the killers. Just using her ability could do that. So it was just super easy for her to flex in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
And,
it was super fun.
And MVP to Robes of Endless Night, because like between like I had it in my deck, you had it in your deck. You have way more spells than I do, so I think you got more use out of it. But like I would be very curious to know how many resources between you and I we saved just by having those cards on table. That is such a good card.
We're gonna have to start watching from the beginning now and count.
I thought to myself, you know what? It would be very interesting to see like individual deck stats to see like over the course of the entire campaign how many damage you did and how many clues you got. And I don't know if I have the ambition to do it, but it would be very interesting to know.
I love numbers, and I agree. We would have to probably split that work up, or we would go insane.
Yeah.
Before I kick it back to you and we move on, I'm also gonna mention, like, throw in some likes and favorites on these decks if people enjoy them. We have put them up under the Mythos Busters profile, so it is easy to find everything that we have out there.
Yep. And a couple of them are on the top page right now already, so good time for it, I guess. We're also going to include the links in the show notes, so check them out there. And, we like the likes. Mm-hmm. We're karma whores. I'm unapologetically a like whore, so, I appreciate all of them.
All right. What was our biggest concern for TCU? I assume, like, for me, it was just before the Black Throne.
Yep, that was
because that scenario can just
focus.
be. Yeah. And Ian, I guess you and I both agree, and your whole plan that you proposed to us was, let's get as many tally marks as possible, so that before the Black Throne we have just a bit more control over it.
Yep.
To the extent possible.
Yes.
Yep. Everything was pretty much focused around that end scenario because there isn't really those failure points. I mean, a little bit in Death's Doorstep, but we weren't too worried about that. So, yeah, everything, unlike pretty much every other campaign we've played, right? Yeah, pretty much. Unlike the other ones, which kind of have a stop point earlier in the campaign, it was just really all about that end scenario and what is everything we can do to prepare for it.
So our first stop, we had the Witching Hour, and it took us 3 hours.
The Witching Hours is the new name of
that
scenario.
The Witching 3 hours. That included some technical difficulties. We probably lost about 20 minutes to that, but it was still like 2 hours and 40 minutes of solid gameplay.
I still don't know how it took that long when people ask me why it took that long. Like, we entered some weird time distortion or something, I think, because I've never had that scenario. I've never thought of that scenario as a lengthy one before.
Yeah, I don't know what made it so grueling. It just, and you getting knocked out like near the end. So our whole goal was to defeat Annette, and when you, our main damage dealer, died, we're like, oh boy.
Yeah, so the problem was the Piper popped out, and so I was taking some swings at it, which in retrospect was a mistake. So the big lesson I learned, which by this point in my Arkham career I should know already, but sometimes you get a little cocky, like, because all my attack tests were at 4 up, if I'm remembering correctly. So
that sounds right.
I was pretty much like, okay, like, this is fine. But knowing that I had retaliate, I should have evaded at first, even though Tony's not a great evader. It's only a 2 evade Piper, I think. So should have done that first, and then, or let someone else go first and evade it. Anyway, point being,
boy, the power of hindsight sure is strong, isn't it?
Point being, I was up by 4 on all these attack tests, and I auto failed once. I was like, okay, that's one autofail out of the way, right? Like, I'm not going to do autofail twice in my same turn.
Surely
not. And so it came down to trying to finish off this Piper, and sure enough, drew a second autofail on that same turn, and that was it for Tony. Not much you can do about that.
So I like how we immediately were like, okay, we need to call an audible here. We're like, Ian, you're dead now. Go check the spreadsheet. What happens if we clue out instead of Annette killing out? And you're like, well, if we do that, we get the investigators win ? At the end of Black Throne. And we're like, oh, is that worth it? And so we kind of hemmed and hawed because we played a turn or two and we're like, well, let's see how we do. Let's get closer. And then, Justin, you drew your shriveling.
Yep.
And Sean, I think you drew a shriveling or some kind of damage.
Yeah, I think I got a Zero Flame down like in the same turn.
Yeah. And then we're like, okay, between those two spells...
We had fully gotten to the point of saying, okay, we're going ? now, no question.
Yeah.
Like, we had made the decision, and then all of a sudden, the damage started to present itself. And we were like, could we?
Yeah. I think that's the power of Agnes's flex, because if anyone can take down a boss, I always think of Agnes as one of the best boss killers in the game, because she can just ping, and now it's the enemy phase, ping again, and just able to kind of ping bosses.
Well, and
for
I
a
think
point at a
if
time.
I'm remembering correctly, we actually got to ping in all 3 phases,
Right.
then fire off most,
Yeah.
if not all, of the shriveling charges, and yeah.
Because you warded in Mythos.
Even something
Yep.
that didn't need to be
Yep.
warded. It was just
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
here's
Purely for
something that's
damage.
being- Yeah.
We got Agnes's ability to fire in 3 different phases. We hit with a bunch of shriveling and azure flame charges, and sure enough,
And did
we're
I
able
actually
to-
throw my act of desperation? I feel like
You
I think
threw-
you did.
I think
Yeah.
Min threw 2 damage on there too.
Yeah. My singleton copy of Act of Desperation.
You know what I highly recommend, which always makes 4-player games and campaigns go better, is if 2 players are running Premonition. It just
Yeah.
True story.
yeah. I think we had that last for Carcosa, did we? Was Premonition even out during Carcosa? I can't
was.
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
now.
we
Yeah.
had premonition in both Daisy and Safina. for
Yeah, that's
Carcosa.
right. Yeah, so I thought I remembered we had another campaign where we were double running it, but yeah, it just helps things out for those key moments.
So
Yeah,
we were,
between 4 copies of Premonition and my Scrying Mirror, there were so many tests over the course of the campaign where it was just like, okay, we got this now.
so we finally got through Witching Hour. We arrived on Death's doorstep.
3-hour witching hour.
Yeah, the Witching
It
Hour.
was, it was witching week.
Yeah. Then we arrived on Death's doorstep because we were on everyone's tail. Oh, we forgot to talk about the prologue. Prologue went fantastic. We got 21 out of the 24 clues.
Yeah.
None of the investigators went anywhere where we needed them to go or wanted them to go as far as the mist or whatever. Don't care. We got a ton. So we
No
get
one
to-
was counting on them as allies, so whatever, they're expendable.
Death's doorstep. We were on everyone's trail, and there was like a total of 3 clues to get or something like that. Like it was nothing. And because we were going enemies of the lodge, we could just more or less ignore the Silver Twilight acolyte guys, like the Silver Twilight people.
And use them as shields against the Watcher.
Yeah, so we just basically scooped all the XP and then left.
Yep.
The end.
Yeah, I don't remember
Exactly.
a ton from it because it was so smooth. I think the big point for me was just we got 11 XP from the Witching Hour, so I think all of us were able to get some key pieces of our rig. Like I got both my upgraded switchblades and garrote wire already going into Death's Doorstep, so yeah, it didn't feel like a big deal to just snuff out the few monsters that showed up.
I feel like we got through it in like an hour. Like
Yeah.
it just
Death's
As-
doorstep went so smoothly that I forgot to post about it on social because I just
That
it
says
didn't
more
even
than anything.
register. Yeah.
As poorly as the Witching Hour went, that's how
Yep.
well Death's Doorstep went.
So then we move into the secret name, which Sean, you were dreading.
I
Be-
was...
not only because of Brown Jenkin,
Yeah, right.
but also I think everyone knows this. This scenario can be an absolute grindstone.
Yes.
Yeah, I was expecting it to take forever. Especially,
a-
like, coming off of Witching Hour, being like, damn, that scenario that I wasn't even, like, I didn't see that coming. Took us 3 hours. The Witching... Like, yeah.
But we ended up clearing it out. Got R2. It went okay.
We got really lucky that the Witch House Ruins was, like, the top of the top 4.
True.
Or of the top of
Yeah.
the bottom 4, rather.
That did shorten it for sure, and I'm trying to remember exactly. I think all of this is going to be a little fuzzy, but it still took a while. Like, it's just always going to be a long scenario, but it wasn't as long as I feared. Like, it was shorter than Witching Hour, I'm sure. And I think
Somehow.
I can't speak for everyone, but I think for the most part, like, Secret Name's usually not just long, it's usually hard. Like, it's not a scenario with a great win rate. But I never really felt that much in danger in our playthrough. Like, I feel like we pretty much had it under control, and I think it was one place where I felt my definitely one of the scenarios I felt the Tony deck could shine, because so many rats just like I was basically on rat duty the entire game, like because I felt like a rat popped out basically every turn, or at least if not two. So it was pretty much just killing rats.
Between the rats, Brown Jenkin, and Meddlesome Familiar as a treachery in 4-player, like every damn turn there was some rat to kill.
Although I did auto fail on a couple of garrote wire rats.
That's right.
Rats are surprisingly difficult to strangle with a garrote wire, it turns out.
Tony, you grabbed the tail again. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's not a garrote wire.
Yeah.
I'll allow it. I will allow it.
I think this is also, like, every Iron Man, we usually, somehow something comes up that we just repeat ad nauseum. It becomes a meme within our Iron Man. And I think garrote wire, every time you used it, like, after Wages of Sin, every single one of us was, shh, 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 shh. Like you would just say, okay, I'm going to use my garrote wire, and then all you hear is 4 people, shh.
With varying levels of comfort. When it's a rat, it's like, okay. When it's Twilight Lodge, it's like, they had it coming. When it was a witch, we're like, ooh.
Yeah, it's
a little dark.
Yeah. Got a little dark. But yeah, it went okay. The amount of clues, though, that you got from killing Brown Jenkin was actually
a lot.
And
killed Brown Jenkin like 4 or 5 times easily.
Like, I don't think, even if the Witch House had not been at the top of the deck, like, even if it had been second or third, I think we would have been okay.
I think
we
so.
had enough stuff to go on, right? Like, we would have just been looking for it, so.
It felt like we had it in hand, and it was just doing its thing, taking a while, but we had it under control. I agree.
Yeah. And then Nahab jumped out and quickly perished. For her Wages of Sin. Now, Wages of Sin, we kind of discussed this in the pre-show about how, or in the pre-Iron Man show, about how one strategy might be get in, get a Spectre, get out. And we ended up going with that simply because of also real-world time. And we were lucky enough that the first Spectre we flipped over was the one that we just had to then flip over again with a bunch of clues and extra clues.
Yeah.
So then I did that.
Again.
Yeah. So then we did that, and then we left.
Yeah, I think from this point on in the campaign, it was really the battle against the real world clock that a lot of our decisions were like, okay, what's the minimum we need to do to get those tally marks for the end? And let's just do that. And this, like, to be fair, we did actually peek at the second Spectre to see if it was doable. And then once we saw that it was like
across the map,
across the banishing condition was across the map, we're like, nope, head to the resign.
And there was that ghost out that did like one horror, but at the location where it doubles the horror, and it's a horror bomb, like it does horror to each of them.
Yeah, those are the worst.
It just, and we looked at it and we're just like,
nope.
No.
Yeah, the exploding witches got out of hand at a certain point.
Yeah. It was just
this one.
No.
This one was also fun in the chat that was going on, because this was the first time, because we were behind but trying to catch up, and when we kept talking about being behind or time and meaning real world time, there were some people who had jumped in and didn't understand what we meant by that, and so we're saying we're behind and we got to keep going, and they're like, aren't they on Act 1? It's fine. No, we're
Act
just
1 with 3 Doom. What's wrong?
Yeah, no, we're just dying in the real world from exhaustion.
Yes, we're working against our real world human fatigue.
Yeah. There's real world Doom, guys.
Yeah. Like, I have no idea how much we could have ended up with.
And I don't care.
I like that ending to my sentence. But to play it out, even to get 2 or 3 more, would have been at least an hour or 2 more. And you look at our final time of 16 hours, and oof, we wouldn't have survived.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I remember it was Jeff or winging it in. I was doing the recaps between rounds of whoever was posting their resolutions. And I remember he said that their group actually legit played it and tried to push as far as they could. Ended up getting 3 or possibly even 4 heretics,
think they got all
but
4.
like, okay, it was a really good result. But then he was like, "But I super regret it because it took forever."
Yeah, it took him like 3 hours or something like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another scenario that can really be grindy.
I don't regret our decision at all.
no, it was definitely for the greater good. So then on to the greater good. This one was going well, and then bad, and then well, and then really bad. So we got a lot of the keys early. Unfortunately, Sean, you ended up with 2 of them really early, and that one treachery that just punches whoever has keys right in the face. Hit you a couple times.
I had to take an attack of opportunity to save us from doom at one point, and it was a 2 horror attack of opportunity, so that hurt. And then I pulled the one that hits you for keys, and I did my best to mitigate it, but there's only so much you could do. And yeah, you know, I have feelings at this point about a treachery that tests intellect, it gains peril, and if you don't have clues, which you would gain by having good intellect, then punishes. Like, yeah, I got knocked out, and it was straight bullshit. But you know, we won, so it was fun.
We ended up evading Nathan Wick to get the puzzle box. We actually had enough clues to advance for a while, but we were holding off until because it was Ian and Sean. You guys were over on the left side of the lodge.
Yep, the sanctum side. Yep.
Yeah, and Justin, you and I were over on the library vault side.
Yep.
And I was just hoovering up clues, and you were kind of running. You were getting clues too, but also running some enemy management for me.
I spent most of that scenario doing the boring flex version of Agnes, of evading, fighting the knights, and just like they kept popping in, and it worked, but it was just, I'm still here and not doing anything else.
I feel like the way that cultists in general have been designed in this game is, you know, they accrue doom really quickly, and they end up being kind of like a whack-a-mole type game, and it can be really fun. And then there are some scenarios, and I think we had a playthrough of this one where just like the encounter deck combos in exactly the right order, and you're like, how did we go from 2 doom to 6 doom in one Mythos phase? Holy shit, someone fix this, please.
Yeah, because that said counter deck has a couple of surprisingly beefy cultists. There's one with like 3 health and 4 health. And every time we cleared the board, we did pretty good at clearing the board, and they just pop out again, like through one thing or another.
It would replenish itself so quickly.
So there was quite a few turns where it's like, okay, let's jump in like a wrecking ball and garrote wire, switchblade, and have to take out 2 enemies, and then Justin's off evading this other enemy, and Patrice has to evade a different enemy, and it's just like, yeah, there was a lot of focus on enemy management in that one.
And Ian,
because we didn't tick at all for evasion, you know, we didn't really have a go-to evade character, so.
Yeah, Ian, when you used your garrote wire, what sound did it make?
I don't know, what sound did it make? That sound?
Yeah, I guess I'm still butthurt.
It did end in like a photo finish, because when you got knocked out, you dropped what clues you had on a victory point location.
Yeah.
That we had previously almost cleared or something, and then I'm coming sprinting across the map from the other corner of the map with the key that we need to pass. Meanwhile, Justin, you have this one knight that you have to evade to get the doom off before you kill him, so we don't doom out. And oh god, it was a photo finish, and we missed out on a VP or 2 or something, because we just ended up not like it. We had under control, and then, oh my god, we're not under control. Then,
yeah,
that was it. It's just it was one of those scenarios where like we would balance and maintain and retake the board, and then we would have several turns that would pop up in between where it was like, okay, if we don't do everything perfectly this turn, we're gonna pop an agenda, and things will get terrible. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's just cultists.
What? And the fact that, you know, Sean got knocked out in this one and I got knocked out in the first scenario, like, generally I don't remember us getting knocked out very often in Iron Man. Like, I think this is the first time I've been knocked out in Iron Man. And I don't say that to brag. I'm just because we planned this out so much. Usually it goes pretty well, but I think it's a reflection of TCU's. It can be a little bit tricky in places.
I think TCU in particular there is a big difference between like 2-player and 4-player.
Yeah.
Such a big difference with the cultist combos and like the stacking treacheries. It is just an entirely different campaign and different threats you're dealing with when you move to high count multiplayer.
Casey mentions in chat too the fact that there's multiple copies of a card that puts 2 enemies back on the board after you clear them, and it's the top 2 enemies that you just got rid of that were your biggest problems. Like it just he describes as hair pulling, and I it's perfect adjective for it.
Strangle myself with the garage.
Particularly if those hairs are pubes, like it's that level.
That level of hair pulling.
Casey said that. Yep.
I mean, we did all get knocked out in Essex County Express, but I think we all forgot that because it took 20 minutes. But way back when. Union and Disillusion. Now, so this is where we got to the point in the campaign that we realized we could first turn resign in Union and Disillusion and Clutches of Chaos to save time and just go right to Blackthorn. We decided not to first turn resign. But we didn't get much farther than that.
Nope.
So Union Disillusion, we ended up getting R5, which is we cleared a few locations, killed a Nether Mist, and then just decided to leave.
Yeah, because functionally it didn't make a difference for our tally marks or the ending. So I do have to thank you guys, because in my head I have that completionist mindset of like, oh, we should just go for it and see whether we could beat the scenario. But judging by the state I was in by the end of the campaign, I might have died if we decided to play this out.
Literally died.
So thank you for rating that in and just saying, let's resign. So.
When we talked about cheesing these scenarios that could be cheesed beforehand, I felt kind of bad about it, and I was kind of in the same camp that you were just talking about, Ian. But then after the witching hour and the greater good experiences that we had, by the time we got to those two, I was just like, fuck it, resign, let's go.
Well, I think that speaks a lot to what Iron Man is, in the fact that it's not just beating these scenarios and seeing how well you can do. There is a real world clock that you are fighting against. And
a real physical toll.
Yeah, and you're fighting against your own brain half the time too.
Right, like your fatigue, right? Like you've been also like my dad, when I told him about this, he called it iron butt, right? Like you're just sitting playing a game for us it was 16 hours, our longest Iron Man, but like 10 to 12 is not unreasonable. And you know what, if you can find a little cheat spot like something like this and just, you know what, I'm just going to skip this scenario, like literally resign first turn because it doesn't change the outcome, there is no disgrace in taking that.
You know what else there's no disgrace in is having Iron Butt be a variant t-shirt for next year.
Need some
Dreamy
custom
butts.
butt cushions.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we should get pillows with the logo on it for your butt.
That is not the craziest idea we've had today.
All completely doable. So we cleared out a few locations, killed a Nether Mist. And then we left. Moved on to Clutches of Chaos. Nick still hasn't played this one.
Yeah.
And we barely did it.
I know. I think even if he had played with us, he still wouldn't remember it because we barely played it.
So this one, the only location with victory points is the Silver Twilight Lodge. And it's over on the right side of the map. So our goal was to just completely ignore the scenario. Like all these breaches are opening up. And like we didn't do a single breach test.
Nope.
And we just said, okay, let's go to the Silver Twilight Lodge, grab the clues, leave. That's our game.
But our last turn, we had like 4 incursions in a single Mythos phase. It was getting really out of hand.
Yeah. I think we were lucky enough to draw a VP enemy, so we're like, oh, we'll stay a turn to kill it and get out.
Yeah.
And so we did.
Yeah, like the way I drew my hand, I was able to get to the Silver Twilight Lodge. Like on the second turn, I arrived at Silver Twilight Lodge, grabbed every single clue in one action, and then left the Silver Twilight Lodge.
It's like we jumped in and crashed someone's game of Pandemic and just like robbed something and just left.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye, rob the bank and bye.
And I think, Ian, we actually said for you to stay around the middle just in case we drew a victory point enemy,
Yeah.
so you could just like hop in and kill it.
And I'm pretty sure we did that last Mythos phase, but there was still like we were like one doom after all the incursions away from advancing. So we're like,
No,
did we end up getting it?
We doomed out. We didn't resign.
Okay,
We did
Right,
advance, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what it was.
Because there were so many incursions, it was just like, blah.
Yeah.
We're like,
Which,
cool.
which we knew again for this one that dooming out was functionally the same. Like it still got us 2 more tally marks and got us up to the 6 tally marks we needed. So we're like, same difference.
Well, it was actually
But this-
functionally better because we didn't get a -4 in the bank.
Yeah, it's actually better to doom out.
It's interesting that
Yeah.
kind of later in the life in the game that we have a campaign that really doesn't punish you for pushing really hard.
Yeah, and usually the penultimate scenario is usually either like a hard stop, like you fail it and it's over, or is just kind of has a lot of implications for the last scenario. But in this case, not so much.
Yeah, that's really funny. You mentioned that, like, usually, second last scenario, you can die. This one, if you literally fail and doom out, it's the best mechanical outcome you can have because you don't get the -4 and you get 2 tally marks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm curious if the return version will punish you for doom draws ever closer. Probably.
guaranteed.
Stop giving ideas.
I was about to say, like, I'm pretty sure we will have played a part in that at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I think the scenario took us half an hour, maybe.
If that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fast. Apparently scenarios go really fast when you don't care about the scenario.
I think like 80% of that time too was resolving the stupid breaches, which we didn't even
Yep.
care about, but we still had to resolve them. We're like, oh god. Like part of me not wanting to go over another turn, I was like, I don't want to resolve the breaches again. It's so hard when your mind is tired.
We've now spoken about Clutches of Chaos longer than we actually spent playing Clutches of Chaos.
Accurate.
And this puts us down to before the Black Throne.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
So, at this point, we were tired. Some of us had a beer or two.
Aha.
And
I'm pretty sure after I got knocked out, I had like switched to straight vodka.
you
Yes.
did, actually.
Yeah.
I remember
You were rage drinking.
I was.
And this is where Ian's spreadsheet and planning ultimately got us the win. Like, hands down.
Yep.
Ian,
Absolutely.
you won Iron Man for us in the planning, which was saying, guys, we need to get every single tally mark we can.
Because they fucking mattered.
Because I think we spent 5 out of 6 of them.
Yeah, I think we had one left, and they were all super useful. And I think most of them were on the final stage, actually. Like
All of them, yeah.
yeah, we just plowed through them at the end.
So the first one where there's 2 options went really fast, as far as I remember. Like we chose the right one, because there's 2 locations on the small map.
Yep, we guessed right.
We guessed right, hoovered up the clues, moved on. The second one, we had a few more of the dancers come out.
Yeah, that's when it started getting dicey because the tiny dancer started dancing out.
Hold me closer, tiny dancer. Yeah, so and then I think it took us 2 guesses to get the right location,
I think so, yeah.
but they're relatively close. So I remember it not being terrible, but we had I think we had all 3 dancers out at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All of them.
So when we flipped over into the giant map, we, within the first phase, because when you flip over, the lead has to draw an encounter card, and I think the agenda advanced, and we all had the dancers.
Every
were
time
right
you
back
advance
out.
the act, you get a free Mythos phase, courtesy of MJ.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think by the point we were to that last stage, Azathoth was already kind of high up there because the agenda advance. I think it was at 4 Doom or 5 Doom or something. So there wasn't a ton of turns to get done what we needed to do.
No, and we had so many with the dancers coming out. By the time we got to the third one, we definitely were having a more and more serious discussion about, okay, who's going to go sacrifice themselves
Yeah.
to hold them off.
My sacrifice.
I remember Sean clearly saying, "Okay, guys, we need to think about having a sacrificial lamb here."
Yeah.
Like that was a real discussion.
That was well after I had like 3 separate times declared that we're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I pretty much figured I probably would be one of the prime candidates as the killer to take that on, so I was prepared for it. But my kind of mindset was like, keep the group together as long as possible because that's going to improve our odds of winning. Like, you don't want to do the sacrifice prematurely. Like,
Yeah.
you just do it when there's kind of no other good alternative. But until then, kind of. I expected us actually to branch out a lot more, but in Black Throne, we actually ended up staying together, especially on the last stage. But part of that
because we
was
were spending like half of our brain power just figuring out how to kite the dancers.
Yeah, and we also ended up using those tally marks to move the locations, so we kind of had to take the same ride, like take the same Uber and
Yes.
and glide around the racetrack there.
And that's what saved us, right? Was finding that specific location. I got to go find the name of it. But it's there it is. Okay, so pathway into the void. And here it is. Action. Remove one resource, which is the tally marks, from the scenario reference card. Move pathway into void to any adjacent spot, placing an empty space in the spot it previously occupied. Group limit once per round. And so literally this was our party bus. Like we were on an
All aboard!
intergalactic pub crawl, and we had $6 to our name, and we could only buy 1 drink an hour. And so,
And we were doing all the peddling ourselves.
Yeah,
oh my goodness, it was
because the big problem is we guessed wrong on the first 2 locations.
two
the-
times.
Yeah, on the first 2, those both were wrong, and so there's only 2 left to guess. And at that point, we were at like 6 or 7 doom or something. So I was like, okay, this is. I don't know if we're gonna make it at this point because we had to get all the way up there. But again, that's where we were kind of drifting around the track with those locations and saving time instead of having to open up new Cosmos locations and all that.
Yeah.
And
And
that
I think
that
at this
last
point, for
one,
the 4th time, I had declared us officially fucked.
yeah, that last one too, with the like after we had used, I think someone had called it the glass elevator to move
Oh, yes.
for
Yeah.
our party bus. That was awesome. And then when we also got the one that we could just get the free action to all move through. I mean, that was clutch for helping us set up too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, against all odds, we found the Black Throne. And Azathoth was, 2 doom away from advancing everything and devouring existence?
Yeah, something like that.
I think we found it when he had 7 doom on him.
Of 10.
Yeah, and then we had to go through a Mythos phase,
Yep.
and then we could get all the clues. And the haunted effect on the Black Throne is you must either place 1 doom on Azathoth or he attacks you.
Yep.
And the
And
Black
the tablet token is if you fail, Azathoth attacks you.
Yeah, it was super
And-
dicey because there's also the treachery that, like, we got to a point where we couldn't afford any more doom. So I know I took an Azathoth attack to the face from that treachery because I couldn't put a doom. I think Sean
took
did.
one.
Yeah, yeah. So, oof, it got dicey.
The Shroud was also its plus X, which is half of the doom on Azathoth rounded up. So we're at Shroud 5.
Yep.
And there was 8 clues there. And one of the key things we also realized is that I had to stay alive. Like
Yep.
the lead investigator who accepted their fate has to stay alive. And at that point, I was at 4 health and 4 sanity. Like if I took a hit from Azathoth, I lose.
Yeah, which is also tricky because if someone got knocked out, then they drop their clues there, and you have to clear the clues off that final location
Clear
to
'em
win.
again.
So,
So we just made sure we were as much up as we could be on every single test. And yeah.
Yeah, you cleared your clues. I think Agnes helped clear a couple, and then it came down to the last 2 clues, and it was like me committing everything, Min adding icons, and like Justin, you were committing cards.
Yeah.
And then the very last test to win the game, I intentionally failed and took an Azathoth to the face to play Live and Learn to have a decent chance at the last test. And if I had drawn a tablet in that first one, I would have taken 2 Azathoths to the face, and it would have been over.
Double
managed
Azathoth.
to skirt that, and we got it for the win. And it was like, I just looked this up because I've been using the word since it happened. The word I would most use to describe our win in Before the Black Throne, acutely distressing, aka harrowing. It was a harrowing win.
It was.
Well, and Sean, wasn't the second token you had off the Live and Learn, wasn't it also, we were got you up by 4, and it was the skull for 4?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like as close to the wire as you could get.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
Black Throne, like, we fought for every single inch.
Yes.
Clawed our way. Yeah.
Every choice and tactical decision we had made about the mechanics of the campaign led us to that moment, and we used almost every resource we had accrued
Yeah.
to get down to the wire and finally won. I think if I had failed that test, I would have dropped 2 clues, and God knows if we would have been able to get through the next Mythos phase with Doom.
It would have been rough, yeah. I had taken Streetwise as a backup, which helped in places. So I was hoping to serve as a backup in case Patrice failed. But yeah, that's the problem is whoever fails drops their clues, and then it makes it kind of a catch-up mode. I feel like this experience kind of increased my value of what I think of Before the Black Throne, actually. Like, I've tended to kind of be critical of some parts of it, which I still am, like the empty space mechanic. I think it's a little rough, particularly if you're playing solo, just like draining your deck. And sometimes the constant drawing of like the extra Mythos phases when you advance the act, or the demonic piping the lead investigator has to draw, it doesn't always feel good. But on that,
Especially
there's
solo,
only-
right?
Yes.
yeah.
There's only one thing I hate more than just when you flip the act or the agenda and like shuffle the discard pile into the encounter deck and there are ancient evils. It's flip the act, something bad happens.
Yeah. And pretty much everyone draws an encounter card is one of the worst things that can happen. Especially we did that once right before at the end of our investigation phase, I think. So we did
It was
that
like double
and then
Mythos.
went right into Mythos, which was not great timing. But I do think it provides some tense finishes, and it was a super tense and exciting finish for us. So,
Oh,
and I think in a scenario where there's not a big bad, because Azathoth doesn't fight, he just kills everyone when he wakes up. Like, that is basically like the scenario's version of Azathoth attacking, is piling on extra encounter cards.
Yeah. If you had drawn a tentacle on that final test, I think I would have actually flipped my desk.
I was ready for it, man. Like, I was spiritually ready to accept the fact that the game was about to fuck us in the 0 hour.
Yeah, I'm so surprised we didn't draw like
And I
at
remember,
least
like,
2 or 3 auto fails.
Right before you drew, I'm like, wait, I'm going to go shuffle the bag.
Yeah.
Like, just to,
Yeah.
Ugh.
And then I like paused to do the math again, and you're like, fucking draw the token!
yeah.
I'm like, okay!
Yeah, I feel like you straight up threatened him.
I believe I did. Sean, you draw the fucking token
That
right
sounds
now.
accurate.
That sounds about right. I hear it in my sleep sometimes.
Yeah.
I was really worried about this campaign only because of Black Throne. Like, I thought this might be where our streak comes to an end.
Rightfully so, because it's the closest we've come, for sure.
Yes.
And there were a couple times where I thought our goose was thoroughly cooked.
4 times,
No.
in fact.
4 times at least.
Oh,
But we did it.
We did it.
But we did it. Our record remains intact. And I'm fairly certain there are no even medium-sized asterisks to our play.
there was
so-
a tiny one, and I forget what it was. There was the tiniest of... Oh, there was something in Union and Disillusion We had to unlight a brazier before we could move or something, so we just switched spots.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. It was Union Disillusion. We were going to just leave anyways, so I don't care.
I think there was something early in the campaign because I remember us talking about a smudge versus an asterisk, but I can't remember what it was. It doesn't matter. We won.
If you can play 8 scenarios of Arkham Horror through without a single small-sized asterisk, like, fucking bully to you.
Yeah.
We're not capable. Clearly.
And that was the most wrecked I've ever been after an Iron Man, which this
yeah.
was the virtual one. I thought, it'll be a little less tiring. Like, this was far and away the most wrecked I've been.
Yeah, and I suppose that bears talking about. It was a double-edged sword because on the one hand, it was really cool to have people actually watching us like almost the whole time. There were people who watched us for like 8+ hours. I think there were probably a few people who stuck through the whole time.
Yeah,
and it was really cool to have that support and to be able to interact with the chat. And twitching is always fun. Like just to be able to play with an audience and with a dialogue going on is just it's a different experience and it's really fun. But at the same time, that dialogue takes time and mental energy. And like for me, who was running the stream and changing camera angles and checking the chat, like by the time I got to like scenario 4, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm operating on pure instinct. Thank fuck for TNA that I have this kind of down. And even just playing TTS versus IRL. TTS definitely helped with the setup and takedown, and there are certain things that are faster, but I think on like the second to second basis, having to click and move cards or shuffle decks or like search using a function instead of just pick up the certain number of cards from your deck to search, like on the second by second basis, we ended up spending so much more time managing TTS than we would have to do the same thing in the real world. Ended up being kind of a tax that we didn't expect.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I was thinking about too, where streaming comes in, which I'm super glad we streamed it. It was great, and I'm glad we got to experience that at least once, if not more, potentially in the future. But one of the things that happens when you're streaming is we're all constantly narrating what we're doing in pretty expansive detail because we want people to follow what we're doing instead of just playing in silence. But when we're playing at the table, that doesn't necessarily always happen. Like sometimes we just do super fast turns, like boom, boom, boom. Oh, I played this and this, like because we're just playing with each other. Like we don't need to narrate everything we do to each other. So I think that also added a good chunk of time to it.
Well, even setup turns, right? Like you're like, I've got a setup turn, and then like you just play a couple cards. Like I'm good, I'm done.
Yep.
And we all saw it happen because we're literally watching you do it. So no one says anything about it.
Yep.
Right. Like, and you don't even like if I'm playing like Milan and a magnifying glass and investigating and moving or something like that. Like I just don't even grab my resources to start the game because they're already spent. I just do it, and I'm like, cool, I got a clue. Go ahead. And because we're all there, you can just watch me do it.
Yep.
And you know what I did. Like, and there's no, that narrating takes.
Yeah. Or even like narrating treachery sometimes. Like if we're just playing a game, sometimes we'll just read it to ourselves and just test it or something, So.
Yeah, I mean, like, by scenario 4 of the campaign, we know all of the basic treacheries. Like, chances are we've all played a practice run-through of the campaign. We can just be like, oh, Fate of All Fools, and then instantly everyone knows what we're doing.
Yeah.
But, like, on a campaign, or on a scenario-by-scenario basis, for streaming, that's the first time that those cards have really entered the consciousness of the stream, so it takes a little bit more time to kind of actually figure out what it's doing.
Sub-Zero Joe in the chat asks, how different did you feel from playing in your own home versus under the constant pressure of being kicked out of the event?
We would have gotten the cops called on us if we had actually been playing in the hall.
We would have had to figure out a transfer our game.
We would have had to move the game to Joe Sensors, which sadly is closing down. I know.
It's terrible.
It's because they got rid of the pizza roll.
Absolutely, that was the death knell. Like COVID, like never mind COVID, it was the pizza rolls.
5 years coming.
Karma's a thing.
It surely is.
Oh, that sucks too.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I posted that article, the waitress we had last year, Jenna, who
she was great.
Thoth was like, Scott, pin that name because I asked her. I was like, hey, next year can we ask for you specifically, because she was amazing.
She was
Yeah.
fantastic.
And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And so Thoth was like, Scott, pin that name in the chat. So I pinned it. And then when I posted the article, and Thoth was like, Scott, you better take down that pin. I was like, oh.
I missed that.
Too real. Too real.
It's really real.
Yeah. Sub-Zero Joe, the pizza circle has been undone.
I think there are definitely pluses and minuses to playing at home. Like, I mean, it's nice just kind of having access to everything you would at home. But on the and you know, being able to just like walk a few steps and collapse into my bed at the end of
Yeah.
it, which I did, was nice.
Yeah, it was very nice that there was like no obstacle between finishing and just like laying down and letting the sea take me
Pure
back.
oblivion. Some of the cons, though, I think is just it's hard to match that raw energy you get from just being in the same room together and playing together, and that really sustains you a lot through Iron Man.
And
Well, and the other thing is, I miss like being in the room where you could see all the other teams playing, and like
Yeah.
you have uproars that come from across the room. You're like, oh shit, what happened? And you know, like when someone draws a tentacle on a really key test, like everyone in the hall knows it. And,
Yeah.
and you know, there's a special kind of ambient energy that goes with that.
Yeah.
And this year, Sean, you couldn't physically throw the tentacle token against the wall.
Oh boy, and I would have.
I think too, and this seems a bit silly, it feels like there was more real-time constraints in the event center because there are. Whereas
Yeah.
when you're at home, it's like, well, we can take an extra couple 5 minutes here and there because the event hall isn't closing. It's our house, right? Like it doesn't matter. So there's that, and then also the event center has this giant ass red LED clock that looks like a countdown timer to a rocket launch that at least half of our team is always facing, and so they can constantly look up and tell us the time. Because I remember, God, was it Shattered Aeons, and Nick was like every 5 minutes telling us the time because we had to like get done and get to
What
throw
an
sensors
asshole.
yeah, we were nowhere near having an issue with time, but it was there, right? And he was updating us and stuff. Whereas, I'd have to look down at the bottom corner of my computer screen, and it's so small, and that's different. But
On the plus side, though, and I think someone pointed this out in chat, you were able to get a rage drink faster than you would at the event center.
True. The
So-
event center does not have hard liquor, so that was definitely an advantage.
So there's that, and then I am glad that we were able to do the streaming after we saw some of the stats afterward, and like not to go too deep into it, but to know that even though we're living in COVID times, we had more than 700 people stop by to check it out, to hang out with us, to share an Iron Man. So I mean, one, if you were one of those 700, thank you. That's great. Hopefully you had some fun. Hopefully your own run went well. But yeah, that was a really cool thing, I think, in helping us even get our energy back after the fact.
I went to go export or check something in Twitch, and I saw our Iron Man, because we had some technical difficulties at the beginning. Our Iron Man, the like 15-hour block after we had sorted everything out, had over 1,700 views on Twitch before we had even gotten to the point of exporting it to YouTube. So beyond the people who came and watched with us live, like almost 2,000 people have already. We're not even a week past it at this point. Look, I mean, maybe not everyone knows our numbers. We're not a big podcast. We're not a big YouTube channel. We don't get big numbers. 1,700 people within a week is like 5 times the amount of people we get watching our videos when we normally post them on YouTube.
Right.
So,
and it's not about like bragging about the numbers. The reason
No!
we bring it up is it's a way that we can gauge the community's interest in this sort of thing that we
Right.
couldn't in person. And it's just
Right.
it's so cool.
it's just cool to see just a very bald-faced example of just like who's actually caring and engaging and bothering to click on a video to watch. Who knows how far they made it in, but it was a really cool thing.
Yeah, I saw an article recently which wasn't about Arkham. It was just a general tabletop gaming article, but it was something along the lines of like why online game conventions don't work. And I kind of snickered to myself because that may be true for kind of these big general online gaming conventions, but when it comes to the Arkham community, I feel like both Farkham Con and this Farkham Knights Iron Man experience have very much worked. And it's because like the community has just been so like the Arkham community is ravenous. Like we're all just crazy people who want to play this game as much as possible and engage with each other. And the community engages with the content creators, and we love engaging with the community and back and forth. And so yeah. It's amazing.
Like in today's world, just never underestimate the power of people just showing up for stuff. Like in whatever capacity that looks like for you. Just the fact that so many people just showed up. And I was very tired and drunk by the end of our stream, so I had a little bit of words to this effect, but still staggered by how many people decided, hey, I'm gonna go check that out.
And that's just ours too, because other people were streaming, other people were checking that out. It was great to see everybody who was participating posting their results. Just so good all around.
So I suppose it bears mentioning that after we had wrapped the scenario and we were all kind of loopily talking, or the campaign rather, and after we were all loopily talking about it, MJ hopped on with us, and we had a nice chat with them, and it was really fun. So we talked a little bit about the campaign, about Iron Man, and then we kind of strayed into other things, and they talked about some people were popping questions in the chat, and marketing had given MJ like basically carte blanche to just talk, and it was really cool. And it's just, I don't know, I've never actually participated or followed a game in any media where the creators are so involved and active and engaged with the actual community. And it was really cool to be able to like debrief with the developer who made the campaign that we just spent 16 hours playing immediately afterwards. So it's just kind of a surreal experience, honestly.
Yeah, and that question when they asked us, so anyone playing any Arkham tomorrow? And Sean and I, yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, you guys
what's funny is like early on I was going to be like, you know what, at the end of everything, when we finally have that like awkward silence, we're like, okay, now we wrap things up, I was going to be like, so anyone want to play Arkham tomorrow? But then by the time we got there, first MJ made the joke first. Yeah. And then Scott and I had a real answer, and it was the affirmative. It was like, oh, okay, this isn't even a joke. I can't.
Yeah.
And then as you guys answered in all seriousness, Ian and I had our souls leave our body from exhaustion.
Yeah, I was not as active in that discussion as I would have liked to have been because I was so exhausted. But the funny thing is I didn't stream any Arkham the next day, but that next night I did in fact play some Arkham, some solo Arkham. Like you would think you'd be tired of Arkham, but usually what Iron Man does for me is it totally revitalizes me in terms of Iron Man. Like in terms of Arkham, I mean, this happened to me last year and the year before. Like after Iron Man, I get into this like full Arkham mode because I'm like on such a high.
A little bit of the hair of the dog that bit you.
Yeah. Like the only thing that Iron Man generally does to me, and we've now done this 3-4 years now, ish, somewhere around there. I'm not going to count it, but the only thing it does is I put that particular campaign aside for a little bit. Nothing else affects me the next day. Like I'm still into Arkham. I'm still like more. I'm thinking about, okay, what am I going to play next? Who am I going to build? And I don't know. It's just such an intensely engaging game for someone who has a very obsessive personality when it comes to games. Yeah. It's a treat. It remains the best game in any medium, in my personal opinion.
I'm the same as you, Sean. Like it just. Like, the Circle Undone is now... That one's getting just tucked away for a little bit.
Push it to the corner.
For now.
Yep.
I am going to play it again, but just not soon. Like,
I started what was supposed to have been a preparation campaign with my sister and her boyfriend. And, they come over once a week, once every other week. COVID has slowed that down, obviously. that we're playing a 3-player campaign. This was supposed to be in preparation for Iron Man. It was supposed to be finished well before Iron Man. We're only on like for the greater good, and they're coming over this weekend. So despite the fact that I'm I'm never I'm put TCU aside, like I'm straight back into it this coming weekend.
Well, Sean, I have some bad news for you. But I don't know if you remember where our TNA campaign is.
Oh, fuck me! Are we going to finish that?
And we're going into was it the secret name?
Yes, we're down for it all.
Oh, that's painful.
Oh, Jesus. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think after last Iron Man, I didn't touch TFA until Return to TFA came out. So.
Yep. All right. Well, maybe we'll talk about that, Scott. I think maybe we can consider our Iron Man run the actual finishing to our TNA campaign, and maybe we look at something else, or maybe we don't. Maybe we actually finish it. I don't know. I like York.
We also had the taboo list come in, like, I mean, essentially mid campaign too. So I don't know.
Right.
We'll have to.
Well, like I said, I'm playing Survivor and Guardian, so I think that taboo list only potentially increased my options.
I think for me, it's just Knowledge is Power is the only one in my deck that's altered.
Like, whatever. In that deck, it wasn't abusive, so it's fine.
No.
Like, I feel like if we just continue playing it, it's all right.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't be tired of Union of Disillusion and Clutches of Chaos since we barely play.
Yeah,
so that should be totally fine.
We can actually play those scenarios. Show up for TNA. All right, everyone good? Yeah, cool. First turn of the line. See you next week, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right.
So in closing, I this was a great experience. It was a learning experience. Thank you to everyone who participated. Thank you to Josh, who helped us organize everything. Thanks to Justin, who pushed everything through on social media. Thanks to Scott, who's always like the cheerleader champion of Iron Man. Thanks to Ian, who threw together the strategy. And you know, I've said it already, and this comes from deep in my content creator heart at this point. There is nothing more valuable to me personally than people who just show up to things. And it doesn't have to be anything meaningful. It doesn't have to be anything involved, but people who just go, oh, that sounds fun. And then you show up. Like you can't understate the value of people who just show up. So thanks to everyone who either played or watched or just chatted. It was a great experience. I'm probably going to sleep for a week when I finally get through this push of content. And it was just a really good time.
And I have a thank you I want to throw out too. I echo everything you have, but thank you to you three. This was my first Iron Man.
Yes.
And you guys made it a lot of fun, and I felt like we just had a good time overall, and so thank you for that.
Yeah, it's something I've talked to Scott about before, but I always think of this as like the World Championship of Arkham, basically. Like, this is the thing we prepare for all year, put so much prep into it. It's so grueling, like you would play in a long tournament. Justin, you did fantastic, by the way. You did pulled more than your weight.
Thank you.
One thing I'll point out just as a final note is just very heartwarming on the note of people showing up is that we talked about being exhausted. I was so freaking exhausted during Black Throne. I didn't know how I would make it through. And people were posting like legit encouraging comments in chat, like cheering us on.
How many people individually posted "You got this"?
Yeah,
when we were in that last
and
scenario.
it seems like such a small thing, but I felt like a video game character. Every time someone did that, my energy bar popped up a little bit, enough to sustain me. So seriously, thank you to everyone who watched at any point, but special thank you to those people who are encouraging us in the final push.
Well, and especially the people who had played their own Iron Man and decided to hop into our chat and like. Even more Arkham for them.
Yep.
I think my favorite comment from that was, I finished my own Iron Man, and then I watched 6 more hours of this. What's happening?
Yep. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. Hey, I've got just 2 other things, or 3 other things. They're short, and then Scott, I'm going to let you bring it home. But speaking of showing up, if you played Iron Man and didn't happen to sign up ahead of time, still go ahead and let us know you played. Sign up on the Farcom Discord server and pop your results in even after the fact. that's just a fun way to engage with the community. It's great for us to gauge how popular the event is as we plan for next year. And people like to see how others did. That's one of the best parts, I think.
Yeah. Like the co-op nature of the game really shines through in that it was so fun. Like in a competitive tournament, I could give two shits. But in Iron Man, it was so fun to go through all the results and be like, okay, this team did this and this team did this. And oh, they're struggling here. And oh boy, we weren't the only ones to have problems with that scenario. And it was just really, really cool.
Yeah, and in general, go check out those stories on our FarcomCon Discord server. Let us know if you need a link or anything. We don't have that active all the time. We do mothball it for a little while in between events, but it'll be out there for a little bit now. Just go see how others did. It's great. And last note before I throw it to Scott is we now have an Iron Man page on our website. So if you have somebody who's wondering what Iron Man is and you don't want to explain it in depth, or you just want to give them a little more background, it's accessible right from our navigation on any of the pages. So go check it out. Send them over there, and let's spread the good word of Iron Man so that next year is even bigger.
Hell yeah. Scott, bring us home, baby.
All right, it's tentacle time. Let's talk about the stuff that isn't Arkham. All the stuff that doesn't matter in life. Go ahead, Sean.
For all 12 of us. I have, and this was a little while back, I haven't had a whole lot of time to throw at anything but Arkham in the past 2 weeks. But prior to that, I had picked up on sale a little game called Darkest Dungeon. Which I'm going to highly recommend, at least to you guys who are here, because I know your tastes, and I know they fall well within this taste. This is very relevant to your interests. It is basically a turn-based dungeon crawler, wherein you recruit legions of characters who all fall within different classes, and send them into these dungeons to gain loot and upgrade materials for your mansion. And obviously they accrue their own experience and gain new abilities and strengths, but they also gain trauma and weaknesses. And it's kind of medievally, it's kind of gothic, it's kind of Lovecraft.
So it's
tickles,
Arkham.
Yeah, it's like it's right in that wheelhouse. It tickles the same sweet spots as playing like Fire Emblem does in the past, because the game like saves almost every turn you make, and there's permadeath on your characters, so you have to be really careful. And like so like Fire Emblem and XCOM, I think, are probably the closest ones to compare it to kind of give you an idea of what the type of game is. But the coolest thing for me in particular, I got this on PS4. It is cross-buy, and I'm like one of the 12 people on the planet who still uses their PS Vita. So I got it on PS4, so I can play it on my PS4 as you would, and then I can upload that save to the cloud, fire it up on my Vita in bed, and keep playing. And it is just a really fun little game. I know I'm super late to the party. It's like in its Game of the Year edition now. The sequel's coming out somewhat soon. Very, very fun game. I think it's relevant to the interest of anyone who's into Lovecraft, because it has a very serious eldritch bent to it. And it's just a really fun, like, turn-based RPGs have a special place in my heart, because it's the kind of thing where you can be playing it on the couch with the family in the room, and at any moment you can set it down and it's fine. Right? Like there's just a value to that in particular. So Darkest Dungeon, really enjoying it. I'm not very far into it, but would highly recommend checking out. It's very unforgiving, very emotional, but very rewarding.
I will check it out. It has a Nintendo Switch version, so.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it's been on my list, and now I've got a personal recommendation. Sold.
Yeah, it's perfect for the Switch. Like, I can't even, if I hadn't gotten it for PS4 because I have the Vita, would have gotten it on the Switch, because the idea of like playing it on the TV, family comes into the room, pick it up, throw it into handheld, like it is the perfect game for that.
Ignore family. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Sub-Zero Joe says apparently Darkest Dungeon video game is solid for $15, but the Kickstarter board game for $150 is a mess. Just warning.
That's a price tag.
I've been seeing the ads for that pop through and was curious.
Here's the thing, is like on its face, I didn't know 150 was a price tag. That's intense. I would have said like this will translate perfectly to like a dungeon crawler board game. I guess I'll weigh in on that after I have a chance to try it eventually.
Justin, what's grabbing you?
What's grabbing me is I'm late to the party, but my wife and I just started watching Lovecraft Country.
I'm only 2 episodes in.
Yeah, I definitely just thought it was titled that, and the eldritch horror was racism, not knowing. I mean, slight spoiler here. Like, no, there's actually monsters.
It's both.
But there's also racism.
Yeah, it's both.
Right. So no, it's real good. We're only watching an episode a night because of the heavy themes in there. But super digging that. The thing I've mainly been spending my time on has been a replay of Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, jumping back to that. Sean knows this. Another friend of ours just got into it for the first time. I played it back when it came out, and so I remember almost none of it because I think that was like 2014.
Accurate.
But it is.
It was the first game I got when I bought my PS4 used in 2014.
Nice. But I love the Dragon Age series, and I think at this point I hate that the saves show how much time I've put into it, but I love how much time, or that they show how much time I put into it. And as it creeps up near the 100-hour mark, I'm both very happy and very sad. Mainly happy.
Did you get a chance? I think we already talked about this, but refresh my memory. Did you get a chance to play any of the DLC yet?
I played one of them that you. I think there's 3, and you can access 2 of them during the main game, and I've played one of them, which was completely fresh, through the fog of time aside, because when I played, it was right when it came out, and I never went back to the DLC. So,
Sure.
Yeah, no, it's super good. I've been recommending it to anyone who digs just any sort of fantasy RPGs at all, even though it's an older game at this point. There's just so much meat there. It's real good.
Yeah.
So been doing that, and then just when I'm not playing games, started reading through my Hellboy compendiums that I bought.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
It might be heresy, but I enjoyed Inquisition more than Origins. Fight me.
Heresy. But to be fair, I've only played like an hour or 2 of Inquisition, so
Oh, that's the problem.
it's just because I love Origin so much. But
Origins is great. I love Origins, and it's way better than 2. Inquisition is a fantastic game with a lot of cool gaming systems. The story's pretty cool. The problem with it is mechanically, it doesn't do a great job of explaining how you approach the giant open world map and all of its systems. So I know so many people who played like 2-3 hours, bumped up against that, and then stopped playing. And I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But Inquisition, at the end of the day, ends up being a fantastic game.
It's a great game. I love the way they
Yes,
build
Scott,
the world in Origins.
It's one of the ones that you're in. Mythos Busters Trivia, Scott's in Inquisition.
No, I'm in. Which one is the third? Is that the third one?
Yep.
that's the third one.
Okay, yeah. My skeleton is in that one.
Yes.
Yes. And my wife is looking for my wedding ring, and that's one of the side missions you can do. Yeah.
It's in one of the first areas. If you blink, you miss it. But what is it? It's something about strong arms, because your last name.
Oh no. Okay.
Armstrong.
So my wife played the first one. So we're buddies with people at BioWare because they're in Edmonton, and my wife really liked the game, and we're chatting. And when the second one was coming out or something, she mentioned how much she liked it, and they in the DLC for the second one, there was Sir Mora's gauntlets.
Yes.
And the descriptive text on them was, they make your arm strong, because they gave you strength, so Armstrong. And then in the third game, there's an NPC with my wife's name and looks like my wife. Like the artist used like a picture off of Facebook and made it look like my wife. But I didn't like Dragon Age, and I told my friend, I'm like, yeah, not really the game for me. I played it for a couple hours, didn't really like it. So they made it so that my wife was alive and I am dead, and the quest is for you, the character, to go get the wedding ring off of my corpse and bring it back to my wife.
I mean, that kind of fits because if you don't like Dragon Age, you're also dead to me.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, there you go. There's the Mythos Busters trivia.
We haven't mentioned it in a while. I feel like that was worth mentioning again.
Every time someone brings up Dragon Age, I just have to.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, I would.
Yeah.
I would bring up Dragon Age just so I could mention it. I get it. Ian, what's grabbing you?
Well, to be honest, not a whole much. Like, pretty much I feel like every free moment I have is going to packing right now. I'm getting ready to move.
Yeah.
My move is about 2 weeks away, so soon I'll be on the other side of it, although I can't quite believe it. It feels like it's endless. But yeah, so there's not much. I think the only actual thing I've done other than Arkham is just trying to catch up on my Lord of the Rings LCG. I'm almost
Sorry, what game?
that one game with the threat and the heroes and the so I'm almost caught up actually. I made it to the penultimate scenario quest of the final cycle.
That means second to last.
Yep. I've used that word twice in this podcast. It's the word of the day.
It's a great word.
So almost fully caught up, but oh boy, it's a tough last cycle, and I've heard the last quest is a true difficulty 10, the first difficulty 10 scenario in the whole game. So
Color me surprised.
I don't know how to feel about that because the ones leading up to it have been tough. But I have been fun building with some of the new cards, like the newest contract is a Bond of Friendship, which you can use 4 heroes instead of 3. So yeah, I've been trying out some combinations with that. And I still have some dreams of making a deck around one of the cards, which you can actually uses the one ring and you can automatically heal yourself at the beginning of each turn. So I still want to make a glowing deck with that.
Oh, perhaps with the best hero in Lord of the Rings, the card game. One glowing McDwarf.
Yes, that's his ancestral name. Yep.
Can confirm well, my name is on the credit. It's fine. I tested for that, and that deck is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. Scott, bring us home, baby.
All right, my tentacle time is kind of mine, but also my wife's. My wife has started a podcast. They're about 8.
Those are
9
weird.
8 or 9 episodes in. Yeah. Theirs are only like 45 minutes, and they're weekly. I told her she has to get her numbers down.
How?
Oh,
I know, right? Like
strange.
45 minutes. What? That's like one commute. Like, what? This podcast needs to be at least 3 times that size.
We just did a podcast based on 15 hours of other content that we just did. What the fuck?
45 minutes is like our intro segment of our episodes.
It's a podcast for ants. Anyways, it is a science-based podcast, and it's called All Around Science, and it's basically a weekly science news show kind of thing. I'm not just saying this because she's my wife, but it's actually really good. I'm finding like they just basically pick a topic, something that's usually quite topical. They record it every week, so as news is coming out, they discuss it. And it's super great. All Around Science. It's on all the podcast thingies and stuff. So
I like science.
Said the person who's been podcasting for like 6 years.
yeah, I don't understand the tech side of that. I just talk into a microphone. I don't know how you guys get the podcast to other people. That's just internet magic to me.
To be fair.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, guys, I think I can't speak for everyone, but I'm gonna need a little bit of a nap. I'm gonna be napping every bit of the 2 weeks between now and the next time we release a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a great time. Thanks to everyone who participated in Iron Man. It was just such a fantastic experience, top to bottom. Go check those videos out if you haven't already. We had some really good times and some really interesting plays. It's all out there. Go check out the merch store, mythosmerch.com. Limited time Iron Man shit is out there. It's really fun. Go buy it. And thanks everyone for joining us for episode 93 rather. Ooh, big difference. 93 of Mythos Busters, and we will see you guys for the next one. Bye.
Bye.